What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4 Decigrams Chapter 66. Sweeping the entire jingling court, the day of execution, asking for flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Chapter 66. Sweeping the entire Seirei, the day of execution, please give me flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Shinigami of the 6th Division, I am a good friend of your Captain Kuchiki, he is my brother-in-law, let's have a good chat. Hey, don't run. On the streets of Seirei, the Shinigami on the road saw this huge crowd of people, and ran away desperately as if they saw a ghost. While running, they shouted, "It's bad, that monster Kie is coming, everyone run. Quick, tear down the wall and run, otherwise he will eat you all. Quickly notify Captain Kuchiki, let him run too, don't let that monster catch him." The 6th Division was in chaos. Kie retracted his hand, looked at the running 6th Division Shinigami helplessly, and said, "Why are you running? I really want to make friends with them." Shinigami, who was held hostage by Nnoitra, twitched at the corners of his mouth, and his heart was full of complaints. Making friends. Becoming a new shield. Seeing that the 6th Division was empty, Nnoitra sighed, shook his head and walked over to eat. Walls, buildings, houses, tiles. Anything made of spirit particles, all turned into spirit particles and were swallowed by Nnoitra's body. In the blink of an eye, there was another large open space. Ichimaru Jin's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but say, "Traveling boy, the captain has left, can you let me go?" He really had the urge to kill now, it was so embarrassing. Especially when he passed by the 10th Division, he saw the pitying look from his crush, Matsumoto Rangaku. If it wasn't for hiding and assassinating Aizen Sōsuke, he really wanted to use Bankai to give this guy a knife. Nnoitra glanced at him and said, "Don't play tricks, or I'll kill you, and your corpse can be my friend." He has been coveting Ichimaru Jin's abilities for a long time. Shikai Shinso can be extended to 100 times the length of the blade, and the speed exceeds the normal speed. Bankai Kamishini no Yari is said to have 500 times the speed of sound, but it is unlikely to be achieved, but it has a strong poison, and almost poisoned Aizen Sōsuke to death. If Ichimaru Jin is transformed into pain, combined with his original abilities, he doesn't know how strong he will be. Ichimaru Jin shuddered all over. "Ah, that monster has come to our 11th Division, everyone run away. Vice Captain Ni Yin Meng has been kidnapped. Oh my god, he ate the Technology Development Bureau and stole 7 artificial bodies, all of which are female Shinigami's artificial bodies. He came to our 8th Division. Vice Captain Aizen Sōsuke was so angry that he fought with him. Vice Captain Aizen Sōsuke was also captured. Damn it, this guy even came to the 4th Division, this is Captain Yunohana Retsu's place. He even beat the sick. Ah. Damn it, you be *******D. You are not allowed to hit Hinamori's ******. Bankai Dagoran Hiranmaru. Ah Dao, you dared to hit me." Captain Tosen Kanami was beaten again, the last injury has not healed yet, this time he was beaten into a mummy again. That day, the Seirei fell into darkness, it also became the nightmare in the hearts of Shinigami. A travel disaster that invaded the Seirei unexpectedly brought with it a large number of Shinigami, and flattened the entire Seirei. The captains of each division disappeared, allowing this guy to do whatever he wanted. Any Shinigami who resisted was beaten half to death. He even went to the 4th Division and beat up the sick there. Hitsugaya Toshiro was furious, even Bankai, but he was still beaten to vomit blood, but many people speculated that he was angry and vomited blood. Because his childhood sweetheart Hinamori Momo was beaten by Nnoitra again. "I'm full, I can't eat anymore." Not knowing which division he was in, Nnoitra patted his stomach and showed a comfortable expression. He ate a lot this time. All the materials cast by the spirits on the road were swallowed by him. There were several divisions that were eaten by him until only the broken bricks and tiles were left. The ghetto statue that was originally cut off was also condensed again, and it could be used at any time to use the summoning technique to summoning out to fight. But it's not that I can't eat, I just feel like something is missing. Kie touched his stomach and thought, full is just an adjective. To be precise, it's his body that can no longer absorb more spiritual power. He felt the burning in his eyes, but there was no feeling like the Mangekyo Sharingan evolving into the Rinnegan. Are you lacking the power of the hollow? Nnoitra thought of something. Before coming to Seirei, he had devoured the spiritual power of hundreds of thousands of Manos Grande in Karakura Town. He fused it with the spiritual power of Shinigami and awakened the Rinnegan. In other words, to make the Rinnegan stronger, one needs to use all the power. But where can one find a hollow in Soul Society? Thinking of this, Nnoitra touched the wall beside him and said with some melancholy, "My appetite is really small, can't I eat more?" Opportunities like this are rare, who knows if there will be another chance to come to Soul Society in the future. It would be best to eat more here, and then awaken the 9 Magatama Rinnegan directly when leaving Seirei and going to Hueco Mundo. Ichimaru Jin, Aizen Sōsuke, Hitsugaya Toshiro. Many Shinigami around him, everyone twitched their mouths when they heard it. Aizen Sōsuke gritted her teeth and said, "You still want to eat? Are you going to eat the entire Seirei?" She had just fought a big battle with Nnoitra. After only 5 or 6 moves, she was captured by the 7 Yoruichi universal pulse, and the spiritual power in her body was devoured by the hungry Kido. Now seeing that this guy is still not satisfied, I am so angry. The Shinigami around were also speechless. All the Shinigami combined are more. Forget it, let's just leave it at that for today. See you in 7 days. Nnoitra waved his hand and disappeared in a flash. The hundreds of Shinigami who were caught up breathed a sigh of relief and quickly fled to the distance. They were afraid that they would be caught by Nnoitra and used as a shield again. 7 days later, right? Aizen Sōsuke gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Just wait, when you save Rukia Kuchiki, no one will be your shield. At the same time, Seirei, 1st Division see the remaining Shinigami gathered here, speechlessly looking at the captain in front of them. The old man was about to explode. Many Shinigami looked at old man Yamamoto, and such a thought inexplicably appeared in their hearts. If Nnoitra had not only arrested people but not hurt anyone, this old man would have started the rampage state long ago. I saw that the veins on old man Yamamoto's forehead were throbbing, and he slapped the chair hard, and a strong ryatsu burst out of his body, accompanied by a burning feeling, and said angrily. After 7 days, you must catch that human kid for me, you have to do it yourself. Kyoka Suigetsu couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was the first time he saw the old man get so angry. Even in the hollow incident 100 years ago, which involved several captains and vice-captains, the old man still remained calm despite the collapse of the mountain. It was a great achievement for Nnoitra to make the old man who had lived for thousands of years so angry. May you be lucky, kid. 7 days passed quickly. During these 7 days, Nnoitra never appeared again, but a big thing happened in the Seirei. Aizen Sōsuke, the captain of the 5th squad, was killed in his own squad, and his body was nailed to the wall, leaving the blood to flow. The whole Seirei agreed that it was definitely Nnoitra who did it. They were determined to catch him on the execution day. So, on the execution day, Mao execution ground, near Sokyokudai. All the captains who could be gathered arrived at the scene, even Tosen Kanami, who was beaten 3 times and wrapped like a mummy, was arrested. In a far distance, a large number of Shinigami gathered. The captains of each division stood around the execution ground. Some were in the sky, and some were standing on the ground, looking majestic and invincible, showing the supreme majesty of the Seirei. Soon, Rukia Kuchiki was brought out. She was wearing white clothes, but she didn't have shackles or anything like that. She looked back every few steps and came to the Sokyoku stage. Looking at the huge lineup, Rukia Kuchiki couldn't help but be shocked. It has come to this point. All the captains of each division were full of shikai and ryatsu. It was hard to imagine that someone would come here to rob people. She was not the only one who thought so. Other Shinigami also thought so. Faced with such a majestic lineup, how could anyone come to rob the execution ground? However, he came. Chapter 67. Kill in seconds, angry captains, asking for flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Chapter 67. Instant kill, many captains are angry. Please give flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. A terrifying giant bird with blazing flames condensed out of thin air. Its body was boiling with scorching flames, and its entire body was condensed by flames. When its wings were spread, a rolling heat wave burst out. All the Shinigami who saw it showed a horrified expression. Is that the Destruction King, which has the destructive power of 1,000,000 Zanpakuto, used to punish criminals, and is known as the strongest torture device? The Shinigami in the distance couldn't help but sigh. The power of 1,000,000 Zanpakutos, just hearing it gives people a feeling of destroying the world. The Shinigami of the entire Seirei are only 100,000, and the power of 1,000,000 Zanpakutos is equivalent to that of 10 Seirei put together. But they also know that although it is said to be 1,000,000 Zanpakutos, it is actually just the power of a sealed state. Even so, it is terrifying enough. Quantitative change leads to qualitative change. Under the power of 1,000,000 Zanpakutos, even the Shinigami captains have to retreat. The King of Destruction has appeared. It's useless even if that guy comes. Sui Feng shook his head. Even if we don't count the captains like them, this terrifying beast alone is enough to show the invincible majesty of the Seirei. The flaming firebird made a sharp cry, and its wings burning with flames flapped. It seemed that it would pierce through Rukia Kuchiki in the next moment. It was at this moment. Boom, a deafening roar sounded. I saw the position of the 12th Division. The ground cracked, the houses collapsed, the rolling dust filled the sky, and a big hand like a dead tree broke out of the ground. In the horrified eyes of many Shinigami, the Ghetto statue, which was created again, rose from the ground and roared to the sky. It's that monster, but wasn't it killed by the captain with one sword? Some Shinigami recognized the Ghetto statue, and their eyes revealed incomparable fear. The oppressive feeling brought by Ghetto statue is even stronger than that of Captain Shinigami. After all, the size that covers the sky and the sun is not exaggerated. After seeing it, Kashimura Sajin couldn't help but take a breath of cold air, subconsciously lowered his head, and glanced at the soul-slaying sword on his waist. My Bankai, is the Black Rope Heavenly Punishment King a match for this monster? Both of them have the posture of a martial god that covers the sky and the sun, but one is mighty and the other is fierce. Just from the appearance, it is impossible to tell who is stronger. But Kashimura Sajin inexplicably has a feeling. If the Black Rope Heavenly Punishment King is allowed to deal with Geto statue, it will be blown into pieces by the terrifying existence in just a few moves. The next second, there was another roar. The complete form Susanoo rose from the ground, with a blue body and wings, swallowing all the spiritual power around to fill itself. The deterrent power is not inferior to Geto statue at all. Two beings that covered the sky and the sun came towards this side with big strides. Wherever they passed, all the buildings were crushed. The surrounding Shinigami saw their scalps tingling, and fled away in fear. They had to flee. Facing such a huge monster, even if the opponent just stepped on it unintentionally, their bodies might be crushed into pieces. That's travel disaster. Sui Feng's sharp eyes found several figures on the shoulders of the Geto statue. They were Unohana Retsu, Kurosaki Ichigo, Abarai Renji, Ishida Yulong, Sato Yasutora, Inoue Orihime, Shiba Yanji. The other captains looked over and their faces became particularly solemn. Has Captain Unohana Retsu joined them? The current Unohana Retsu is not the previous Unohana Retsu. Unohana Retsu, who became the villain again, first-generation Kenpachi, is absolutely a madman, and no one can defeat him except the captain. As for Abarai Renji, the captains present didn't even pay attention to him. The strongest boy is in the crystal on the forehead of the blue giant. He is very strong. It feels like he has become much stronger. Hitsugaya Dashiro's eyes were solemn. The captains present suddenly had a headache. Seeing this scene, they realized that these beings that invaded Soul Society had become a serious problem without knowing when. The giant flame bird, the king of destruction, condensed in flames, made a sharp sound, flapped its wings, and gradually flew back dozens of meters. Captain Shinigami's expression became solemn. They knew that this was a precursor to the king of destruction's attack, accumulating strength to penetrate the body of the sinner. Kie also saw this, with a cold light flashing in the Rinnegan, and without hesitation, he controlled Susanoo to fly forward. Travel, this is not a place for you to be presumptuous. Kashiwamura Sajin spoke angrily. He would never allow anyone to be unreasonable to his benefactor, the Captain General. The new and old hatreds added together made him open Bankai without hesitation. Black Rope Heavenly Punishment Mingwang, the towering black armored warrior god, appeared out of thin air. He was the same height as many other warriors, and under the control of Kashimura Sajin, he strode to meet Susanoo. Other captains also prepared to help. Seeing this, old man Yamamoto nodded slightly, thinking that it was not time to release the soul-slaying sword. The two giants collided not far away. Looking at the black armored warrior god who appeared again, Kie slashed with an impatient knife. Big Fox, you are the weakest here. Among the Shinigami captains he had fought, even the youngest Hitsugaya Dashiro gave him a stronger sense of oppression than Kashimura Sajin. I am a member of the werewolf tribe. Kashimura Sajin roared, waving the soul-slaying sword in his hand and slashing down, and the black armored warrior god made the same move at the same time. The two giant blades collided with each other. The roar resounded throughout the jingling court. The surrounding ground was scraped off by the shockwave. The black armored god of war, who was on par with Susanoo, even took several steps back and almost collided with many Shinigami captains behind him. However, this was only the first cut. After the first cut, Kie did not hesitate to cut the second cut. The speed of this cut was extremely fast, like a blue meteor across the night sky, boiling with blue spiritual power, and cut down at a very standard position. What? Kashiwamura Sajin's face changed drastically. Kacha. A crisp cracking sound was heard. Kai's cut from top to bottom almost chopped the black armored god of war into pieces. Kashiwamura Sajin's face turned pale instantly, blood oozed from the corners of his mouth, staggered back several steps, and fell to the ground with a bang. The black armored god of war also disappeared at the same time. Many Shinigami captains who had just seen this scene were shocked. They were ready to support Kashiwamura Sajin, but Kai's actions were too fast, and only the second cut defeated Kashiwamura Sajin. They didn't even have a chance to attack. Ichimaru Jin had a chance, after all. His Shinso had a very fast speed, but he had no intention of attacking. A powerful captain fell just like that. You did a good job. You have initially integrated 8,000 kinds of kendo and found the most suitable fighting method for now. Unohana Retsu's eyes became hot. She had never seen such a young man. In half a month, he learned the kendo that took him hundreds of years to learn, and after continuous fighting, he even mastered it. If he continues to grow, he will definitely surpass the kendo masters who are stronger than him. By then, she will not be the strongest Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi will also lose the title of the strongest Kenpachi. And that time is when she will fight against the 7 Yoruichi. Thinking of the tragic fight, Unohana Retsu became more and more excited, her face flushed, and she couldn't help but clench the soul-slaying sword. She also wanted to take action to vent her desire to fight. What? Captain Kashiwamura lost. The Shinigami in the distance looked unbelievable. Many Shinigami captains gathered together, but with just 2 slashes, the other side seriously injured one captain. This was completely different from what they imagined. How could he be so fierce? Good money. So many captains there couldn't do anything to him. Some Shinigami couldn't help but roar. As high-ranking Shinigami, they never thought that one day they would be shocked by the humans they looked down upon. If it was a one-on-one duel, it would be fine. But there were obviously many captains at Sokyoku Terrace, and even the captain-in-chief was there. It actually allowed humans to show their ferocity. Shinigami captains such as Kyoka Suigetsu didn't look very good, because Nanaya's move was equivalent to slapping all of them in the face. Even the mild-mannered Jashiro Yukitake couldn't help but frown at this moment. Ha ha ha, this guy is mine, you are not allowed to come over, let me fight him one-on-one. Zaraki Kenpachi laughed wildly. Although he was defeated by Nanoya before, after that battle, his strength did not decrease but increased, and Ryūjin became more and more terrifying. After warning many captains, he rushed towards Susanoo without hesitation. Nanoya glanced at Zaraki Kenpachi, then turned his gaze to Sokyakutai and said lightly. Ichigo, come on, Chapter 68. The Execution Platform of the Power of Millions of Soul-Slaying Swords. Chapter 68. The Execution Platform of the Power of a Million Soul-Slaying Swords. The voice was faint, but it spread widely. After hearing Nanaya's words, the Shinigami in the distance were stunned at first, and then a nameless fire surged in their hearts. Arrogant, too arrogant, that's Zaraki Kenpachi, the captain of the 11th Division. You didn't do it yourself, but let another brigade do it. We must teach this guy a lesson, Captain Zaraki, kill that brigade quickly, we must not let them be so arrogant. Do you think you can defeat Captain Zaraki by defeating Captain Tosen? Those two captains are not on the same level. Just a human, don't be so arrogant, the Shinigami in the distance roared angrily. Nene's move was simply a slap in their faces, trampling their faces into the ground. That's the captain. The strongest fighting force of the Seirei may not be born for hundreds of years, how could it be trampled on casually? Many captains also had an unknown fire in their hearts. They admitted that Nanoya was very strong, but they only recognized Nanoya. The few human brigade who came with him, one by one, the most powerful Ishida Uryu was only at the vice-captain level. They actually let such a guy challenge Zaraki Kenpachi. Zaraki Kenpachi, the madman, will definitely kill that troublemaker as quickly as possible. Tosen Kanami, who was wrapped in bandages, gritted his teeth. On weekdays, he and Zaraki Kenpachi did not get along, but now he could pray that Kenpachi would win. Under the attention of the crowd, on the shoulder of the Gedo statue, Kurosaki Ichigo carried the Zangetsu sword and looked at Zaraki Kenpachi with fiery eyes. Is that the guy? After being chopped by Unohana Retsu for more than 10 days, no matter how non-warlike he was, he still had a nameless fire and was ready to find someone to vent it. With a step, Kurosaki Ichigo jumped down directly. Zaraki Kenpachi saw Kurosaki Ichigo coming down and chopped him casually. Don't get in the way. You be ***************. D. Kurosaki Ichigo was not to be outdone and attacked with his sword. When the two swords collided, Zaraki Kenpachi's face changed, and he stepped back several steps, almost losing his grip on the soul-slaying sword in his hand. What a great strength. Both of them just used brute force to collide, but Kurosaki Ichigo was actually better. This result shocked the Shinigami present. Zaraki Kenpachi became very excited, and turned his eyes from Nanoya to Kurosaki Ichigo, laughing and raising his sword to chop. I didn't expect that besides Nanoya, there is actually a strong man like you, ha ha ha, let's fight. The two blades kept colliding. At the same time, their own Ryūjin burst out. One gold and one blue, the two powerful Ryūjin were evenly matched, and both had reached the captain level. That guy's Ryūjin has also reached the captain level. The Shinigami present were a little skeptical of life. Some of them had practiced for hundreds of years, but they didn't even reach the vice-captain level of Ryūjin. And these two Ryūho, who were said to have mastered their abilities for less than a year, had actually reached the captain level and were the strongest among them. The sound of metal clashing continued to ring. The duel between the two instantly became white-hot, and they slashed each other almost crazily, and each knife caused the surrounding ground to crack. This guy has released part of the power in his body again. Looking at Zaraki Kenpachi's posture, Unohana Retsu recognized his situation. Only by fighting with the strong can Zaraki Kenpachi regain his original strength. If it was half a month ago, Zaraki Kenpachi, who had experienced that battle, would definitely not be the opponent of Kurosaki Ichigo now. Seeing that he couldn't take down Zaraki Kenpachi, Kurosaki Ichigo took a step back and said in a deep voice. Bankai. Hearing these two words, the Shinigami captains who were watching from a distance suddenly widened their eyes and cast unbelievable expressions. Bankai, is it true? Hasn't he only possessed the power of Shinigami for a few months? That is the ultimate secret of Shinigami, which may not be learned even after hundreds of years. Could it be that Captain Hitsugaya has talent? Tensa Zangetsu. After saying the name of the soul-slaying sword, Kurosaki Ichigo burst out with a violent blue Ryūjin, forming a blue beam of light that rushed into the sky. The clothes changed from the Death Tyrant uniform to a black windbreaker. The Zan soul sword in his hand, which was like a huge machete, also turned pure black, extremely thin, and could not see any power. Just when the Shinigami were doubtful, Kurosaki Ichigo's figure flashed, and the speed was extremely fast. Almost in an instant, he appeared in front of Zaraki Kenpachi. The pure black Tensa Zangetsu in his hand slashed down. Abu. Blood bloomed. A huge wound was cut on Zaraki Kenpachi's chest, and bright red liquid kept flowing out, staining his clothes and the ground red. The Shinigami captains in the distance were not calm, because they saw that this was a real Bankai. First there was Nnoitra, and then there came a travel disaster that could Bankai. Kyoka Shinsei felt more and more toothache. Why are these travel disasters so evil? Ha ha ha, interesting, Bankai. Zaraki Kenpa laughed loudly, not caring about the wound on his chest, and fighting more and more enthusiastically. The two continued to fight, but this time, Zaraki Kenpachi's wounds were getting more and more. Kyoka Shinsei couldn't sit still. If this continued, the Shinigami's face would be completely lost, and they had to save it anyway. The other Shinigami captains thought the same. While they were thinking, Nnoitra had already controlled Susanoo and flew to the front of the Sokyoku platform, facing the giant flaming bird, the king of destruction. Rukia Kuchiki, who was fixed on the execution platform, looked at Susanoo with surprise. Then he thought of something and said quickly, Nnoitra, come and try to see if you can break this platform, but be careful, the execution platform can withstand the power of 1,000,000 soul-slaying swords. Remember, don't go head-to-head with the king of destruction, that guy has the power of 1,000,000 soul-slaying swords. What are you going to do? You can't go head-to-head, its power will gradually increase, and in the end the captain may be killed. Rukia Kuchiki shouted nervously. She knew Kai's character, and that he would never give up until he saved her, so she could only keep urging Kie to save her. I know, don't urge me. Kie didn't even look back, and with a thought, Susanoo slashed behind him with a big knife. Boom! The Sokyoku platform, which could withstand the power of millions of soul-slashing swords, was directly chopped to pieces by this knife, and a large amount of rubble fell to the ground. In the shocked eyes of Rukia Kuchiki, Susanoo grabbed her with a big hand. Then she put her in the crystal. Rukia Kuchiki came back to his senses, breathed a sigh of relief, patted his chest, looked at Nnoitra who was also in the crystal, and said nervously, Nana, I'm out, let's go quickly, as long as we go to the real world, the Shinigami of the Seireii will not chase us. He wanted Nnoitra to leave quickly, after all, the captain was still on the scene. This is a monster known as the strongest Shinigami in 1,000 years. As long as they go to the real world, the Seireii will take into account the destructive power of the battle and let them live in the real world. I want to leave. Nnoitra looked at the giant flaming bird, the king of destruction, coming towards him, and said lightly, but this guy has locked me. It seems that because he saved Rukia because of Kuchiki, the giant flame bird Ruoang Wang, which was condensed by flames and was said to have the power to cut off 1,000,000 souls, was looking at him with cold eyes. Ruoang Wang made a violent cry, and the sharpness of the sound seemed to spread throughout the jingling court. Waving its wings that were burning with flames, the beak of Ruoang Wang burst out with terrifying power, and it attacked like a phoenix in flames. There was only a loud bang. Ruoang Wang's beak hit the Susanoo sword, and even the complete Susanoo retreated. Then, the giant flame bird Ruoang Wang retreated. A stronger power burst out from its body, it attacked again, and there was another loud bang, and it was obvious that the power was even greater than the last time. Rukia Kuchiki's face changed drastically. The attack of Ruoang Wang will be stronger and stronger. In the end, even the captain-level strongman can be killed instantly. Kie suddenly realized. No wonder in the original work, the King of Destruction, who has the power of 1,000,000 soul-slaying swords, was actually blocked by Kurosaki Ichigo's Shikai Zangetsu. The emotion has not yet exploded with all its strength. Thinking of this, facing the King of Destruction who has grown to a terrifying level, Kie said coldly, I don't want to kill people, but it's okay to kill you as a torture device. Ghetto statue. As Kie roared, the outer path demon roared to the sky in coordination. Golden chains burst out from the body. Those golden chains seemed to be able to imprison gods, so terrifying that they wrapped around the body of the giant flaming bird and forcibly pulled it away. Chapter 69 Kaden Kyokotsu. In the heart of Black Pine, the Baboon King Zabumeru. Chapter 69 Kaden Kyokotsu Heart of Black Pine, Baboon King Zabumeru, seeking flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. The giant bird of fire that covered the sky and the sun cried out. The flaming wings struggled desperately, and the Ryatsu that burst out was no weaker than Yunohana Retsu, but it was still bound by the golden chain. Accompanied by the harsh friction of the chain, it was actually swallowed by the ghetto statue. Byakuya Kuchiki couldn't stand it anymore, sank the soul-slaying sword in his hand into the ground, and said lightly. Bankai Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. In an instant, thousands of sakura flowers fell, and the beautiful scenery contained a piercing murderous intent, rising against the wind and sweeping away. Kyoka Shinsei sighed helplessly and drew out his soul-slaying sword. It's too arrogant to say it, there's really nothing I can do. It's been a long time since I used this move. Bankai. Kaden Kyokotsu Black Pine Heart, as Kyoka Shinsei's Bankai, which was stronger than Byakuya Kuchiki's Ryatsu, erupted, the captains around him felt the pressure. Kyoka Shinsei, is this guy so strong? Sui Feng looked at Kyoka Shinsei in surprise. Although he knew that he was the captain's apprentice, many Shinigami didn't think he was that strong because of his lazy personality. And it has been hundreds of years since Kyoraku Shinsei used Bankai. As Ryutsu rose, Kyoraku Shinsui's Zanpakuto did not change, but behind him, a female shadow made of an unknown substance appeared. The double swords inserted into the ground extended several black pine trees and pine leaves, and the surrounding environment became particularly dim. What is this feeling? Tosen Kanami looked around in doubt. He was born blind and only relied on the spirit veins to feel the surrounding environment. However, the surrounding environment did not change, but it made him feel extremely uneasy and panic, and even trembled in his heart. Leave Captain Kyoraku, that is the ability of his soul-slaying sword. Jashiro Yukitaki coughed twice and retreated quickly. The thoughtful captain was shocked. He didn't expect that Kyoraku Shinsui's Bankai could even affect them. Only the captain remained as steady as a mountain, his expression did not change, and he stood there calmly, like a volcano before eruption. For the two people below Bankai, Nnoitra didn't even look at it, just raised the Susanoo sword. I'm so annoying, stop yelling. He looked at the King of Destruction with cold eyes, and with this sword, the constantly chirping giant bird of fire was directly split into two. The ghetto statue screamed to the sky, and the chains bursting out of its body forcibly restrained the giant bird of fire in front of it. Stop, Byakuya Kuchiki frowned, waved his right hand, and thousands of sakura flowers swept over. However, Captain Kuchiki, you are not allowed to go over. Abarai Renji's figure flashed, blocking in front of countless sakura flowers, holding the soul-slaying sword and yelling. Your opponent is me, Bankai Zabumaru the Baboon King. As Abarai Renji Bankai, Red Ryutsu burst out from his body, rapidly climbing to the level of Shinigami Captain. The soul-slaying sword turned into a giant skeleton python, with bright red fur on its head and spikes on its body, coiled up like a snake. The Death Tyrant's uniform also changed. The brown fur will cover its shoulders, the fur on the right shoulder is as long as the wrist, and the fur on the left shoulder is only to the elbow. There is a skull decoration on the left shoulder fur, and a chain with a skull on the chest. From a distance, it looks like a hunter walking out of an ancient forest, giving people a sense of wildness. Thousands of sakura flowers hit the giant skeleton python, but they did not defeat it immediately. Byakuya Kuchiki's expression remained unchanged. He took back the sakura flowers that filled the sky and said calmly, Bankai, is this what you have gained the most from your time? That's right. Abarai Renji looked at Byakuya Kuchiki with a fighting spirit, manipulated the skeleton snake head to open its mouth, and said in a deep voice. Captain, are you still my opponent now? You can try. Byakuya Kuchiki didn't say too much nonsense. Thousands of sakura flowers swept over again, and the power was more fierce than the last time. Then don't let me defeat you, Byakuya Kuchiki. There was no honorific in his words. Abarai Renji roared. Baboon Bone Cannon. From the mouth of the skeleton python, a violent red crow burst out, attacking like a laser. Boom. A deafening roar sounded. On the other side, Kyoraku Shinsei, who had liberated Bankai, raised his legs helplessly and walked forward with two swords in his hands. Wait, Captain Kyoraku. A gentle female voice sounded. Yunohana Retsu came over, drew out the soul-slaying sword and said gently, your opponent is me, let's have a fight next. Kyoraku Shinsei stopped, scratched his hair, and said helplessly, Captain Yunohana Retsu, after all, you are the captain of the 4th Division of the Seirei, are you going to join forces with those robbers? Yunohana Retsu glanced at Nnoitra in the sky, and couldn't help licking her lips. He is still growing and can't be stopped by you. In nearly 1,000 years, she has only seen an opponent who is so suitable for her. Even Zaraki Kenpachi can't do it. Kyoraku Shinsei suddenly had a headache. If he had known that Yunohana Retsu would come, what else would he release? Bankai, isn't it good to just sit there and fish? Oh, it's a headache, during the time that the few people wasted. The burning flames of the King of Destruction let out a wail, and no matter how he struggled, it was useless. 014501503 Filu 182,371,241. He was swallowed by the ghetto statue. The Shinigami in the distance were all shocked after seeing this, and they all shouted in horror. How could it be that even the Sokyoku platform was destroyed? Is there no one who can stop that disaster? The captain has already taken action, but he was blocked by others. Seirei, with so many Shinigami captains, is it really impossible to stop that guy? Zero, please give me flowers, the uproars continued. They could not understand the battle between captains, but they could see the giant flame bird Duan Wangwang being devoured. Nanoue did not care about this at all. After removing Susanoo, she hugged Rukia Kuchiki and landed on the broken Sokyoku platform. Rukia Kuchiki suddenly became nervous, hugged Nanoia's arm tightly and said, Nanoue, what are you going to do? Why are you still falling? We have to leave Seirei quickly. She had no idea what Nanoia was thinking. Since she had saved herself, why did she still stay in the Mao execution ground? Did she really think she could defeat all the captains? Nanoue knocked on her forehead and said, Stupid, shut up, I don't want people to watch the fun behind the scenes, I want to take out the things in your body. Rukia Kuchiki was a little confused. Is there something in my body? Kie didn't waste time talking to her, and gently placed his right hand on her chest. Humanity. As his right hand burst out with spiritual power, Kai's palm actually reached into Rukia Kuchiki's body, searching inside wantonly. Rukia Kuchiki's face flushed instantly, and she held Nanaya's right hand tightly with both hands and said, Nanaya, what are you doing? We can't do it here. So many captains are here, and my brother is here too. It's not okay. Although she felt that she liked Nanaya a little, Nanaya's behavior was too embarrassing. At least she had to find a room. Nanaya was full of black lines. I didn't touch you, what are you shy about? But the Shinigami present didn't think so. Many Shinigami widened their eyes, not expecting Nanaya to be so open. They actually did such a thing in public. Byakuya Kuchiki's pupils contracted and his face turned red. He was angry, and his anger almost broke through his reason. Nana, what are you doing? His sister was actually taken advantage of in public. His sister's innocence and the glory of the Kuchiki family were almost tarnished by that B***********. D. Even if he was a lifesaver, it wouldn't work. In a rage, Byakuya Kuchiki's strength surged, and thousands of sakura flowers almost drowned the giant skeleton python. But Abarai Renji was also furious. Nanae, you B**********. D. What are you doing to Rukia? His childhood sweetheart, the girl he had secretly loved for many years, was actually taken advantage of by someone in his arms, and his hand reached into his chest. Byakuya Kuchiki and Abarai Renji, both of them felt a sense of common hatred against the enemy at the same time. Especially the former, even when fighting with Abarai Renji, but because of excessive anger, he still pointed his right hand at Nanaya and roared. Beast bones scattered everywhere, spires, red crystals, steel wheels. The moving ones are wind, and the still ones are heaven. The sound of long spears hitting each other resounded throughout the city. Hado 63 Fiery Lightning Hell, Chapter 70, 6 Paths of Pain vs Jashiro Yugataki, Asking for Flowers, Monthly Tickets, and Rewards. Chapter 76 Paths of Pain vs Jashiro Yugataki, Tick, tick, tick. The bright red liquid kept dripping. It dyed the pure white captain's Haori red, and also dyed the soil under his feet red. Byakuya Kuchiki's left shoulder was hit by Abarai Renji's Baboon King Zabumaru, and the spikes on it pierced his shoulder. Byakuya Kuchiki didn't care about it at all despite the severe injury. If he hadn't been distracted by using Kido, Abarai Renji couldn't hurt him at all, and he didn't care about the wound at all. He just stared at the two people on the Sokyoku stage with his eyes full of anger and murderous eyes. The anger almost burned his reason. He was still doing that obscene thing. Until now, his hand has not been stretched out from Rukia's chest. Looking at the oncoming lightning, Nanaya searched Rukia's body with his right hand, and pointed his left hand at the lightning and said, Hungry Kido. The terrifying lightning that was coming towards him was swallowed alive by his Hungry Kido ability before it even touched Nanaya's palm. As for the remaining lightning, it was completely unable to hurt Nanaya, who was protected by spiritual power. Lord Luju. Seeing this scene, Byakuya Kuchiki almost spit out a mouthful of blood, and could no longer maintain his sanity, and his eyes almost spewed out flames. Keng Jing, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi, he roared, and didn't want to waste time with Abarai Renji anymore. Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi's billions of sakura flower blades flashed cold light, like countless sakura flower rivers, rushing towards the dry bone python. Everything along the way was shattered, and almost chopped into dust by billions of sakura flower blades. Abarai Renji's face changed drastically, and he looked at the billions of sakura flowers in disbelief. Such a huge torrent of sakura flowers. I also learned Bankai, how could the gap be so big? Damn. Baboon bone cannon. Abarai Renji's face became ferocious. Holding the end of the Baboon King Zabumaru, he infused all his spiritual power into it, causing the snake head of the Baboon King Zabumaru's withered skeleton python to open its mouth. The violent red Reiatsu spread, and once again blasted towards the billions of sakura flowers. However, this time, the violent red shock wave was directly submerged by the blades of the billions of sakura flowers, and did not even approach Byakuya Kuchiki. It's over. Abarai Renji looked at the sky full of sakura flowers in despair. At the critical moment, Crescent Moon, Tianchong. The black sword energy shattered the earth and split the river formed by billions of sakura flowers into two, and even cut off the land because of it. It's the one who fought with Zaraki Kenpachi. Byakuya Kuchiki's face changed, and the other captains also changed their faces, and quickly turned their heads to look into the distance. Suddenly, the pupils shook. I saw that the ground on the battlefield in the distance had been bombed into ruins, with broken bricks and tiles everywhere, and many cracks tearing the earth. In a certain ruin, Zaraki Kenpachi's figure had fallen, and blood kept flowing on the ground around him. He looked seriously injured, but not dead. Because the vice captain of the 11th Division, Kusajishi Yakiru, did not have a particularly angry expression. But this was shocking enough. As the captain of the combat squad in the 11th Division, Zaraki Kenpachi was defeated twice in a row. Byakuya Kuchiki looked at the owner of the Black Sword Energy, Kurosaki Ichigo, with cold eyes. I underestimated you. I didn't expect that besides Nanaya, there is a monster like you who can Bankai. Kurosaki Ichigo also looked very embarrassed, with blood all over his body, but he didn't care and stood in front of Abarai Renji. Holding Tensa Zangetsu in his hand, he looked at Byakuya Kuchiki unhappily. Aren't you Rukia's brother? Even if you are the captain, it's too heartless. Byakuya Kuchiki's eyelids jumped, and the suppressed anger swept out again, and he couldn't help but look at Sokyokudai. He couldn't help but roar. Damn B*******************, D, you are still touching. Kurosaki Ichigo was shocked. He didn't expect that this cold captain would be so out of control at this moment. His face was almost distorted. Thinking of this, he also glanced at the Sokyoku platform, and almost popped his eyes out, and said in astonishment. Wait, Nanaya, what are you doing? Nana glanced at him and said. Looking for something. Rukia Kuchiki's face turned red, but he also quickly explained. Brother, Ichigo, don't get me wrong, Nanaya just reached into my chest to find something. But this statement is obviously misleading. Byakuya Kuchiki's face was livid, and he gritted his teeth and said, I didn't expect the world to be so promiscuous. You have only been there for a few months, and you have been affected like this. Quote. As he spoke, he swung the Sakura flower blade and prepared to kill the couple. But he was blocked by Kurosaki Ichigo. The latter slashed with Tensa Zangetsu, so fast that it even left countless afterimages, and chopped the Sakura flower blade into pieces. Byakuya Kuchiki's face became even uglier. Do I have to kill you first to kill those two guys? That's right, I won't let you pass. Kurosaki Ichigo refused to give in. Abarai Renji also came back to his senses, and once again controlled the giant skeleton python and said. Maybe I misunderstood. Nanaya, no matter how much he likes to fool around, he wouldn't do such a thing in public. He gritted his teeth and said. There must be something in Rukia's body, and it must be taken out. After he finished speaking, he had an inexplicable urge to cry. This was too miserable. The other side was taking advantage, and he had to protect him. Humph. Byakuya Kuchiki snorted coldly and said. Then I'll go to hell. Final scene. White Emperor's sword. A blade appeared in his hand, which was the strongest form of Senbon Sakura. Fighting was going on everywhere, and the flames of war almost shattered the sky. Many captain-level Reiatsu seemed to be about to overwhelm the Mao execution ground. Seeing such a chaotic situation, the captain, who was sitting like a mountain, finally made a move. He tapped his cane lightly, and the dead wood on the cane's surface was blown away by the wind. The ancient soul-slaying sword appeared in the captain's hand. The terrifying Reiatsu gradually spread, and the temperature around seemed to rise. Captain Shinigami, who had not yet taken action, took a breath of cold air, and cold sweat flowed down his forehead. He did not expect the captain to take action. Easy. Jashiro Yukitake coughed twice and had to step forward and said. Teacher, let me do it. If Captain Yamamoto took action, the enemy would definitely be defeated, but Sokyokutai, Mao's execution ground, would definitely be turned into scorched earth. If the battle went further, the Seraiti might suffer great losses. Seeing that his proud disciple was about to take action, old man Yamamoto thought about it and took back the spreading Reiatsu. Go. Jashiro Yukitake nodded. Although Jashiro Yukitake looked weak, after pulling out the double swords from his waist, he burst out a Reiatsu that was no weaker than Kyoraku Shunsui. He took a deep breath and said. All the flowing waves, turn into my shield, all the lightning, turn into my blade. Sogyo no Kotowari. The double swords connected by a red rope formed a chain on the hilt with 5 plates on it. After releasing the soul-slaying sword, Jashiro Yukitake stepped on the ground, and his figure soared into the sky, heading straight for the sky above Sokyokutai. At the same time, found it. Nanaya's mouth curled up a little. After searching for a long time, he finally found something in Rukia Kuchiki's heart. The round Hōgyoku beads. Human path. Hungry Kido. Hands merged into Rukia Kuchiki's body, 2 abilities burst out at the same time, forcibly pulling out Hōgyoku bit by bit. Sensing Jashiro Yukitake, Nanaya didn't prepare to attack, just said. Animal path. 3.7 inches Shua. The white captain's feather-woven cloth flashed. Sui Feng, who had a black stick on his face, looked particularly indifferent, but also somewhat cute and beautiful, like a Hokage hydrangea, appeared. Or rather, Sui Feng's artificial body. Now it's the animal path pain. After Aizen Sōsuke's artificial body was broken, he created a new pain. Facing the oncoming Jashiro Yukitake, the animal path pain in Sui Feng's appearance slapped the ground without hesitation. Summoning technique. Bang. In the white smoke. New 6 paths pain walked out, with the appearance of each captain, and attacked Jashiro Yukitake at the same time. Super Shinra Tensai. Summoning technique Yama. Human path heart layer dive. Summoning technique Hellhound. Sealing technique Suction Seal. Weird arm rocket 100 shots. Being attacked by 6 abilities at the same time, Jashiro Yukitake's face changed, and he quickly placed the soul-slashing sword that absorbed spiritual power in front of his chest. But he was still hit by the invisible repulsive force, and his body crashed to the ground. Boom. Chapter 71. Yoruichi is transformed into a cat maid, Sui Feng has a nosebleed. Chapter 71 Yoruichi was turned into a cat maid, Sui Feng had a nosebleed. Boom. The invisible repulsive force was particularly terrifying. This move almost drained 1/10 of Nanaya's spiritual power, and its range was so terrible that it covered the entire Sokyoku platform and Mao's execution ground. The invisible repulsive force even materialized, forming a white light that could destroy everything. Everything around was destroyed by the white light, the buildings collapsed, the ground cracked, and a big hole was blasted out below by the shock wave. It was like Konoha that had experienced the Super Shinra Tensei. Seeing this scene of changing the terrain, the old friend Kyoraku Shunsui's face changed drastically. Jashiro. It's okay. Jashiro Yukitaki stood up from the crack, his clothes were stained with dust, and blood oozed from the corners of his mouth, looking a little embarrassed. The attacks of the puppet of the young man who traveled to the disaster were all physical attacks with a large range. Although there was spiritual power in the repulsion, it was not much and could not be absorbed by his soul-slashing sword. The attacks of other pain were the same. If he had not used spiritual power to wrap his body, the powerful repulsion and hundreds of missiles would have been enough to seriously injure him. Do I still have to use Bankai? Jashiro Yukitaki muttered to himself. When Sui Feng saw the new Pain 6 paths, her eyes suddenly burst into anger. Damn the 12th division, even my corpse has O3. She couldn't bear it anymore, even if Nanaya had her handle in his hand. She burst out with powerful spiritual power and shouted. Kill all enemies. Suzumaki. The soul-slashing sword turned into the shape of a queen bee sting. Sui Feng took a step and was about to rush out, but at this moment, a black shadow flashed by her side at an extremely fast speed. The 6 pairs of Pain 6 paths Rinnegan clearly captured the identity of the black shadow. Beast Way Pain said almost instinctively. Yoruichi, sit down. The black shadow stopped instantly, bent his legs and squatted on the ground, stretched out his right hand, waved it like a lucky cat, and said coquettishly. Meow. Instantly, the whole audience was petrified. Even Byakuya Kuchiki, who was fighting, stopped at this moment and looked at the black figure in disbelief. It took about a few seconds. Byakuya Kuchiki came back to his senses. Ignoring Kurosaki Ichigo, he pointed at the black shadow, and was so angry that his voice was a little crazy. Shihoin Yoruichi, what are you doing? The owner of the black shadow was Shihoin Yoruichi. Wearing black clothes like night clothes and a black mask, his face could not be seen clearly, but everyone knew that this was Shihoin Yoruichi. As the 20th of the Shihoin family, one of the 4 nobles, the head of generation. Former captain of the 2nd Division of the Seraiti. Commander of the Criminal Army. Commander-in-Chief of the Secret Mobile Force. Yoruichi, who has so many honors, is squatting on the ground like a cat maid. He also waved his palm like a spoiled child. Byakuya Kuchiki, who is also one of the 4 nobles, almost vomited blood. It's so embarrassing. How can a person be so embarrassed? You have embarrassed the 4 nobles. The other captains also twitched at the corners of their mouths. Although they had known Shihoin Yoruichi's character for a long time, this is really. It's amazing. He actually trained the arrogant Shihoin Yoruichi to be like this. He squatted when he was told to squat. How did these 2 people get along with each other on weekdays? Master Yi. Sui Feng looked at Shihoin Yoruichi blankly, blinked, and subconsciously touched her nose. She felt like she was going to bleed from the nose. How can the obedient Yoruichi-sama be so cute? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Shihoin Yoruichi's expression gradually stiffened, and then her face flushed. She stood up suddenly, looked at Nanaya, and said with gritted teeth. Little devil, what are you shouting about? After eating catnip in the black cat form, she would be ravaged by Nanaya every time. This led to her having an instinctive reaction to Nanaya's orders. As long as Nanaya Yoruichi opened her mouth, she would subconsciously squat down and act like a spoiled child. The beastly pain in Sui Feng's form blinked and said, misunderstanding, this is a misunderstanding. I just felt that you were a little naughty, so I shouted. Shihoin Yoruichi had an urge to kill. But the one who wanted to kill more than her was Sui Feng. Her face flushed, and she gritted her teeth at the beastly pain in her form. Not obedient. You actually said that Master Yoruichi is not obedient. Nanaya, you be asterisk 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 D. What have you done to my Master Yoruichi? I won't forgive you. Sui Feng rushed over with gritted teeth. But before she could do anything, she felt a hot spirit sweeping over her. Captain General. Sui Feng stopped abruptly and looked at the Captain General who had drawn his blade in shock. 2 outrageous, one by one. Old man Yamamoto's expression was majestic, with anger flashing in his eyes, and Reiatsu burst out, staring at the captains present. The Shinigami captains present lowered their heads in shame. They knew that this was the Captain General expressing his dissatisfaction with them, and they had not taken down the invaders for so long. HMPH. Old man Yamamoto snorted coldly, and finally fixed his eyes on Kie, and said in a deep voice. Human travel disaster, the Seraiti is not a place for you to be unbridled. With what you have done, you have committed a serious crime. Be prepared, kid. As he said, old man Yamamoto burst out a stronger Reiatsu, and the space trembled, as if the sky was pressing down. The rolling flames burned on the soul-slaying sword, and he drew the sword out of the sheath without hesitation and slashed it. Matsuna. Kido. As soon as Kido Pain raised his hand, he was burned to ashes by the surging flames. Followed by several other pains. It was completely unable to stop the flames of more than 5,000 degrees. The only remaining Tiandao Pain raised his palm again, and his voice was as cold as an iceberg. Super Shinra Tensei. The violent repulsive force clashed with the flames, and in the shocked eyes of everyone, the pale white repulsive force actually shattered the flames. Old man Yamamoto narrowed his eyes and praised. You did a good job, you actually blocked my flames. At least half of the captains could not block his sword just now. While speaking, old man Yamamoto took off the captain's haori on his body, revealing a body full of scars but still strong. He swung the sword again, with more power than before. Castle Flame. The surging flames covered the entire Mao execution ground. Seeing this scene, all the captains' faces changed drastically, and they stopped without hesitation and fled quickly. The captain's range attack does not distinguish between enemies and friends. Seeing that the flames were about to hit, Hiei finally pulled out his palm, raised the corner of his mouth, and looked at the azure bead in his hand. Hōgyoku. He stuffed Hōgyoku into his arms, stepped on the ground, grabbed the fan behind him, and came to the front of the battlefield in an instant. He waved the round fan in his hand fiercely and shouted. Uchiha Rebound. The flames that swept in touched the round fan and were rebounded in just a moment. The violent flames engulfed old man Yamamoto. In the rolling flames, old man Yamamoto waved his soul-slashing sword and cut off the surrounding flames. 530. Seeing this, Hiei licked his lips, waved his right hand and said, You go to a distance first, leave this to me, you can't even bear the aftermath. The flames of nearly 6,000 degrees can burn even steel into pulp. Kurosaki Ichigo and others were very nervous, but they also knew that they couldn't intervene randomly, so they could only retreat quickly and stand beside many captains. The captains looked at each other in surprise, but in the end they didn't make a move. Everyone stared at the center of the war. Little ghost, do you want to fight with me? Old man Yamamoto squinted at Kiei. He forgot how many years he hadn't made a move. Since the Great War 1,000 years ago, it seems that the only one who dared to stand in front of him and challenge him was the young man in front of him. Of course. Nanoya licked his lips, tightened his hand and said, It's not my character to always get beaten, at least I have to fight back a few times. You are so brave. After nodding, old man Yamamoto appeared in front of Nanoya in an instant, holding the Ryūjin Jakka that was burning with fire. The flaming knife slashed down. Nanoya raised the fan without hesitation. The blade chopped on the fan, and Tianyi's pupils shrank. You are really a super strong old man. The temperature can be rebounded by the fan, but he actually took on this violent force, as if a mountain was attacking. Rebound. The absorbed flames were blasted out by the fan again. When this move was over, Hiraku Shunsui Kurosaki Ichigo and others all took a breath of cold air. Because on the captain's white haori, there was a little charred black, and faintly, sparks could be seen spreading. Chapter 72. The Power to Control the Five Senses, Kyōka Suigetsu. Chapter 72. The Power that Controls the Five Senses, Kyōka Suigetsu. You actually hurt me. Old man Yamamoto looked at the sparks on the corner of his clothes quietly. Just a moment ago, he actually failed to block the power that was rebounded back to him. Human boy, you did a good job. Old man Yamamoto looked at Nanoya again, with a hint of fighting spirit in his eyes, and the Reiatsu bursting out of his body became more and more amazing. Really? Nanai licked the corner of his mouth. It's really an honor. In an instant, the two of them started at the same time, the former wielding a knife, and the latter waving a round fan, fighting at a very fast speed. *3*3. The sound of metal clashing continued. Every time the two of them clashed, the surrounding ground would inevitably be destroyed, and the rolling flames almost burned the ground into magma. They clashed hundreds of times in just 1 second. Many Shinigami in the distance were dumbfounded, and they didn't expect Nanoya to be able to do this. It's that round fan. Hiraku Shunsui saw the key and said in a deep voice, It's that round fan that blocked the teacher's flames and Reiatsu, and was able to counterattack them. They are now purely fighting with swordsmanship. Many Shinigami reacted and couldn't help but sigh. What a terrible round fan, it can even counterattack the captain's flames. That is to say, it almost weakened the power of Ryūjin Jakka to the extreme, forcing the captain to use only pure swords. But the captain still has the upper hand. In pure kendo, he still can't beat the captain. Hearing the discussion in the distance, Nanoya finally couldn't help it and cursed. Are you blind? This old man uses a fart kendo. He is not pure and is just using strength to bully people. Uchiha fan can bounce back all spiritual attacks. However, the monster old man in front of him integrated spiritual power into the blade, and each slash was no less than a mountain falling down. It was completely overwhelming with force, there was no such thing as a sword duel. After only 1 minute of slashing, his arm was numb and he could hardly hold the Uchiha fan. The scolded Shinigami's mouth twitched. Hiraku Shunsui couldn't help coughing, and couldn't refute it, because this was his teacher's habit. Overwhelming with force. No matter how many thousands of swords you have, no matter what weird abilities you have, I will rely on the spiritual power accumulated for thousands of years and Ryūjin Jakka to chop you. It was a very rogue fighting style, and he suffered a lot from it. But unfortunately, this trick was still very effective. Unohana Retsu held the soul-slashing sword and snorted. This damn guy is the same as hundreds of years ago, without any change. Her duel with old man Yamamoto was similar to today. The latter couldn't compete with her swordsmanship, so she simply burst out with a strong Reiatsu and used Ryūjin Jakka to defeat her. This is also the reason why she never fought with old man Yamamoto again. Because the latter really has no technical content. After being slashed many times, Nnoitra finally couldn't bear it anymore, and his figure took 2 steps back, and the purple Rinnegan turned into scarlet eyes. Amaterasu. Flame control. The pupil technique of Mangekyo Sharingan burst out. The black immortal flame burned, and instantly exploded into an overwhelming black sea of fire, causing the black flame to burn with a flame of more than 6,000 degrees. Old man Yamamoto was stunned for a moment. Use fire to fight me. As he has the strongest flame-type soul-slashing sword, no one dares to use fire against him. He casually swung a knife, and the overwhelming flames swallowed the black flames, but inside it, the black flames were still burning. Old man Yamamoto was even more surprised. The strange black flame seemed to never go out, and it was actually igniting its own flame as a burning material. The flame of more than 6,000 degrees was burned by the black flame. It seemed particularly terrifying that there was a flame that used flame as fuel. Hiei shook his numb hands, stared at the black flame in the flame, stretched out his hand without hesitation, and shouted loudly. Flame control. The quietly burning black flame instantly turned into multiple black javelins attacking. The old man Yamamoto's pupils condensed, and he subconsciously wanted to take 2 steps back, but he quickly reacted, stopped and chopped with a knife. You are a step slower. Hiei's mouth curled up a little. Dit. The javelin formed by the black flame Amaterasu instantly hit the old man Yamamoto's right hand, and a black flame burned on his arm. HMPH. Anger flashed in the eyes of the old man Yamamoto, and he snorted coldly. Reiatsu, who was beyond the captain level, burst out and extinguished the black flame Amaterasu. Tisk tisk tisk, it's really scary. Even the inextinguishable flame was extinguished by Reiatsu. Hiei couldn't help but smack his tongue. The old man in front of him is worthy of being the ceiling of the whole play. Ridiculously strong. I thought that the sudden use of flame control could at least cause a good injury to the old man. The result was just a small burn mark. But what Hiei didn't know was that it was this small burn mark that made many Shinigami's eyes widen. Hiroku Shunsui opened his mouth even wider. Because since he could remember, he had never seen the Captain General injured. Because no matter how strong the enemy was, if the Captain General got serious, he would be burned into black ashes by a knife. Take a deep breath. Hiei's figure quickly retreated, and at the same time took out Hōgyoku, threw it directly at old man Yamamoto and shouted. Stinky old man, this is a treasure. Seeing the azure beads in the air, someone hiding in the dark suddenly contracted his pupils. Then he saw the Captain General in front of him, and he had an urge to kill, but after hesitating for 2 seconds, he was ready to make a move. Only Hōgyoku must not be lost. The old man Yamamoto's eyes were boiling with anger, and he didn't care about Kia's words at all, and he directly stabbed at Hōgyoku slashed forward. At this moment, a gentler voice came from not far away. Bakudo number 81 splitting void. The speed of the chantless Kido was extremely fast. In just half a second, a transparent wall was formed in the sky. The knife of old man Yamamoto blasted cracks in the invisible wall formed by splitting void, but in the end, there was no. Then, the gentle voice continued. Bakudo number 63 locking bars. Bakudo number 75 5 pillars of iron. Hado number 90 black coffin. 3 consecutive powerful Kido burst out. Old man Yamamoto was first imprisoned by the golden chain, then hit by 5 iron pillars falling from the sky, and finally locked in the black coffin. And all this happened in just a moment. What? Many Shinigami captains were shocked and hurriedly looked in the direction of the caster. Aizen. Hitsugaya Toshiro's pupils contracted. Aren't you dead? He had clearly seen Aizen Sōsuke's body in the 5th division before. Tisk. Nnoitra curled his lips. He also took a look at the body of the 5th division, but that guy was not dead at all. He just used the ability of Kyōka Suigetsu to create the illusion of death. This kind of illusion type ability is very useful for the Shinigami of the Seraiti, but it can't deceive himself who has the Rinnegan. Aizen Sōsuke didn't say anything and rushed towards the collapse at a very fast speed. What happened today was beyond his control. Not only was the captain not led away, but Hōgyoku was also thrown in front of the captain by Nnoitra. That old man is a monster. Thinking of this, although the target was Hōgyoku, Aizen Sōsuke couldn't help but look at 7 Yoruichi. It was this guy who disrupted his plan. At the moment when he was about to touch Hōgyoku, not far away, a giant black coffin, Didajao, formed by spiritual power exploded like a sky, bursting with flames. Aizen, what do you want to do? The old man Yamamoto, whose body was burning with flames, walked out of the black coffin fragments and looked at Aizen Sōsuke coldly. The old man who had lived for 1,000 years was so smart that he realized something was wrong the moment he saw Aizen Sōsuke. He chopped with a knife without hesitation, trying to stop Aizen Sōsuke from touching Hōgyoku. However, in the eyes of other Shinigami, the knife of old man Yamamoto was obviously crooked, and it was clearly the invisible air that was chopped. The power to control the five senses. Nanoitra muttered to himself. Hearing Nanoita's voice, the faces of the Shinigami present changed drastically. They didn't expect Aizen Sōsuke to hide the ability of the soul-slaying sword. And it was such a powerful ability. Even the captain was affected by his ability. Aizen Sōsuke was shocked, and he didn't expect Nanoitra to know his ability. But he didn't stop. He tried to catch Hōgyoku floating in the air. At this moment, the only remaining Tendo Pain stretched out his palm in the distance. Universal Pull. Chapter 73. Pure Violence, Crushing Bankai asking for flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Chapter 73 Pure Violence, Crushing Bankai please give flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. The invisible gravitational force acts on Hōgyoku. Hōgyoku, suspended in the air, was pulled dozens of meters away. Looking at the azure sphere in his hand, Tendo Pain, or Nanoitra who controls Tendo Pain, suddenly felt a little pain. How should this thing be used? When he got Hōgyoku just now, he had thought about using Hōgyoku himself. But, it's completely useless. I can't feel the power of this thing at all. Even if I put it on my chest, I didn't feel the power getting stronger. But if you think about it carefully, you will know that Hōgyoku is still a semi-finished product and needs Aizen Sōsuke's research. Now this thing is a hot potato. But he is not going to give it to Aizen Sōsuke. Everyone knows that Yūjin is the biggest villain, but Nanoitra feels that Aizen Sōsuke in the later period is more dangerous than him. Travel disaster. Nanai. Aizen Sōsuke showed a dangerous expression. Hōgyoku, who was so close to him, was snatched away, and even with his temperament, he was a little angry. Moreover, the one who snatched Hōgyoku was a human, and he had a completely contemptuous attitude towards humans, which was equivalent to slapping him in the face. Why are you looking at your father? Nanoitra pouted, not taking Aizen Sōsuke seriously at all. Anyway, they were all enemies, so he was not afraid of offending the other party. Arrogant brat. Aizen Sōsuke looked at Nanoitra with cold eyes. Even if the ability is a little weird, how can you, a human, know what the real power zone is? As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and said, 953 inches Hoto's 90 black coffin. A black cube like a coffin appeared. But before the black coffin was completely formed, Nanoitra also stretched out his palm and said, Hoto's 90 black coffin. The black coffin also swallowed Aizen Sōsuke. It was the copying ability of Sharingan that allowed him to copy Aizen Sōsuke's move. The pure black coffin swallowed the figures of the two. In the pure black environment, Nanoita's purple Rinnegan fluctuated slightly, and he saw countless sword chi shooting in the darkness. Not daring to be careless, Tianyi stretched out his right hand and said, Shinra Tensei. The Shinra Tensei used by the main body outer path was more powerful and shattered the countless sword chi. The black cube was also gradually shattered. The outside world. Aizen Sōsuke had also broken the black coffin, holding the soul-slaying sword, surrounded by many captains, including the captain-in-chief Yamamoto. Seeing Nanoitra coming out of the coffin, his pupils shrank slightly. I didn't expect Nanoitra to escape. Hey, you idiots, don't get close to him. Nanoitra didn't care and couldn't help but remind him. It was useless to attack Aizen Sōsuke in groups. With the ability of Kyōka Suigetsu, these guys couldn't tell the enemy from the friend. But many Shinigami captains just looked at Yoruichi and didn't take his words to heart. Even though they knew the true power of Aizen Sōsuke's soul-slaying sword, they still believed that they could defeat Aizen Sōsuke. Aizen, you can't escape anymore. Adka, go to room 46 and tell me what you want to do. Old man Yamamoto said in a deep voice. Hearing this, Aizen Sōsuke pushed his glasses and said in a gentle voice, escape. Captain General, you seem to have misunderstood something. I never thought of escaping. Moreover, those guys in room 46 have been killed by me, and no one can judge Jien. Hearing this, all the Shinigami captains present changed their faces. Just at this moment, a terrified Shinigami voice came from a distance. It's not good, Master Hitsugaya, everyone in room 46 is dead. What? Hitsugaya Toshiro's face changed drastically. Anger appeared in the eyes of old man Yamamoto, and he waved his soul-slaying sword and said, Aizen, have you betrayed Soul Society? His mouth twitched, and he had to remind him. Stinky old man, if you chop down with this knife, you will be ready to send the old to the young, no, the old to the old. In his sight, the knife of old man Yamamoto was clearly aimed at Jashiro Yukitake. Old man Yamamoto's eyelids jumped. But he still chopped down with this knife. Jashiro Yukitake suddenly felt his scalp tingling, and his figure quickly retreated, barely avoiding the flames that were enough to burn the sky and the earth. Only then did they regain their vision. It was at this time that the two traitors hiding in the crowd suddenly turned against them. Ichimaru Jin and Tosen Kanami, holding their soul-slaying swords, burst out Reiatsu and stabbed the other captains, kidneys without hesitation. Caught off guard, Byakuya Kuchiki and Hitsugaya Toshiro were hit, and quickly covered their bleeding waists, while looking at the two with angry eyes. Ichimaru Jin. Tosen Konami. Ichimaru Jin quickly retreated and came to Aizen Sōsuke, holding the soul-slaying sword Shinso with a smile. Captain Kuchiki, I remember I told you a long time ago that no matter what time it is, you must be careful of me attacking you. Tosen Konami's expression was indifferent, and he said nothing. Byakuya Kuchiki and Hitsugaya Toshiro's faces were ashen. The places where they were injured were really miserable. Nanoya exhaled and said, from now on, you will all listen to my command and do whatever I tell you to do. However, just as Nanoya finished this sentence, he saw Kashimura Sajin rushed out in anger. Aizen, what on earth are you going to do? You be *********************. Good words can't persuade the damn ghost. Nanoya looked at Kashimura Sajin in silence. This guy is so miserable. He has to go to the hospital again. Aizen Sōsuke's expression was still gentle, but he stretched out his palm. Hado 90 Black Coffin. The black cube in the shape of Black Coffin instantly swallowed Kashimura Sajin. The latter roared in the Black Coffin, thinking that if Nanoya could break the black tube, then he would definitely be able to break it. After a few seconds, the Black Coffin gradually disappeared. Kashimura Sajin, covered in blood, fell to the ground, his eyes revealing an expression of disbelief. Just now, when Nanoya saw that he easily broke the Black Coffin, he thought that this ability was not strong, but he didn't find it until he was swallowed by the Black Coffin. The Black Coffin used by Aizen was so powerful. Any blade in it reached the level of a top vice captain. Thousands of sword energies attacked him, and he had no chance to fight back. Thinking this in his heart, Kashiwamura Sajin felt that his eyes were getting darker and darker, and finally, he fainted on the spot with blood all over his body. The captains around him took a breath of cold air. Captain Kashiwamura Zuo was killed again. The battle with Nanoya can be explained, but Aizen Sōsuke only used one Kido. Old man Yamamoto's expression became more and more angry, and he raised Ryūjin Jakka again, bursting out a high-temperature flame exceeding 6,000 degrees. Fortress flame up. The violent flame formed a circle, enveloping all the Shinigami captains present. Nanoya rolled his eyes at this. Stinky old man, don't you understand what people say? I guess I'm the only one who can resist Kyōka Suigetsu, but old man Yamamoto doesn't listen to me at all. When old man Yamamoto came to his senses, his face was extremely ugly. Because his knife did not imprison Aizen Sōsuke and the other two, but trapped Kyoraku Shunsui and others in the endless sea of fire. At this time, Aizen Sōsuke took off his glasses and rubbed his ancestral hairspray on his head, which immediately changed his temperament. From the original gentle and elegant, he became arrogant and domineering. Before, no one could recognize that this was Aizen Sōsuke, because the temperaments of the two were completely different. After taking a look at the flames in front of him, Aizen Sōsuke rushed towards Tendo Pain without hesitation, trying to take back his Hōgyoku. Ichimaru Jin and Tosen Konami blocked Nanoya's steps at the first time. Nanoya thought for a moment and said coldly, you two still want to stop me. Tosen Konami looked at Nanoya with hatred on his face and gritted his teeth and said, little devil, do you think you can defeat our two captains quickly? You can try. Nanoya didn't say anything more, and his body burst out with terrifying Reiatsu, like the complete form of the god of war Susanoo rising from the ground. Bankai Suzumushi Final Style Yanma Cricket. Bankai God Killing Grab. Ichimaru Jin and Tosen Konami Bankai at the same time, and the huge black sphere imprisoned the three of them. Hearing, vision, smell, Reiatsu. Only the sense of touch was not deprived, as if in endless darkness. Tosen Konami hurriedly said, Ichimaru Jin, grab my palm quickly, so that you can return to normal here. He wanted to join forces with Ichimaru Jin, with the other party's Kamishini no Yari, which was simply an assassination weapon in this situation. Yes, I know, Ichimaru Jin said with a smile. However, before he finished speaking, the pure black space was shattered like the sky, and it turned out to be the complete form of Susanoo controlled by Kie. He chopped it to pieces with a single blow. Chapter 74. Tosen Konami is killed, the new human Wei Pain asking for flowers, monthly tickets and rewards. Chapter 74. Tosen Konami is killed, the new human Wei Pain, please give flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. 131,313. Tosen Konami half knelt on the ground, coughing continuously, and every cough would bring out blood. My Bankai is broken again. Ichimaru Jin's eyelids twitched slightly, and he subconsciously aimed his Shinso at Nanoya. Then, he saw the purple Rinnegan. Nanaya's cold and ruthless eyes stared at him, which immediately gave Ichimaru Jin an ominous premonition, and his figure quickly retreated. The Susanoo sword slashed across again. Its deterrent power was so strong and terrifying that it scraped off another layer of the ground from the scorched earth of Mao's execution ground. Ichimaru Jin's scalp suddenly went numb. If he hadn't dodged quickly, this knife would have cut him in two. Susanoo's sword plus kendo, the deterrent power is particularly amazing. He is no longer able to fight, beyond the ordinary captain level. Only Aizen Sōsuke, Yamamoto old man's level can compete with this terrifying martial god. After swinging this sword, Nnoitra was too lazy to chase Ichimaru Jin. Although they are both Aizen Sōsuke's subordinates, Ichimaru Jin is more than one level stronger than Tosen Konami. So far, he has not exerted the power of Bankai. After coughing up a few mouthfuls of blood, Tosen Konami staggered to his feet, used Shunpo, and was ready to find Aizen Sōsuke. In response, Nnoitra sneered, stretched out Susanoo's big hand and grabbed it. You still want to run? Don't dream, just be my puppet honestly, I haven't made a captain level pain yet. The previous Pain 6 paths were just artificial skeletons, and the power they could exert came from his spiritual power. But if a captain is used as material, the spiritual power of the created pain will definitely reach the captain level without him having to worry about it. You want to turn me into your puppet? Tosen Konami's face changed drastically, thinking of the 6 paths of pain controlled by Nnoitra. If he becomes that kind of thing, he will not be able to rest in peace even after death, which is simply a torture worse than death. At this moment, Tosen Konami gritted his teeth, pointed his right hand at the complete form Susanoo, and his spiritual power surged all over his body, roaring and chanting. The pride of heaven, the iron wall, the dragon walks, the lion roars, the tiger roars, the wolf runs, cut off the world before it collapses. Quote. Bakudo number 81 splitting void. The 81st Bakudo exploded, forming a transparent wall-like glass in the air. After using this move, he desperately fled to the distance, rolling and crawling, looking extremely embarrassed, and completely without the posture of a captain. However, under the bombardment of Susanoo's arm, the transparent glass-like splitting void exploded. Nnoitra sneered and said, You are too weak. Even if it is Bakudo number 81, you have not used it to the ultimate. Among the many Shinigami captains of the Serai, Tosen Konami and Kashiwamura Sajin are similar, both of them belong to the bottom of the many captains. If it were not for the hollow incident 100 years ago, they would never have become captains. The huge hand of Susanoo that covered the sky and the sun grabbed over. Tosen Konami showed a horrified expression, looked at Aizen Sōsuke fiercely, and said, Captain Aizen, save me. Bankai was broken, Bakudo was broken, and now he had no way to compete with Susanoo. But Aizen Sōsuke just glanced at him, and then withdrew his gaze indifferently. For him, Hōgyoku was the most important. He casually waved the soul-slaying sword and cut off the Tendo pain in his own image. Reaching out to grab the azure bead. Seeing this, Tosen Konami was desperate, looking at the oncoming hand unwillingly. Can't die. I can't die. I haven't gained light yet. I haven't taken revenge yet. How can I die here? Snap. Susanoo's hand slapped down heavily. With a loud bang, Tosen Konami, along with the ground around him, was slapped by Susanoo's hand with 5 finger marks. The earth trembled at this moment. The ground, which had already become a ruin, was even more cracked by this palm. When Susanoo's hand slowly lifted up, Tosen Konami's body was already embedded in the ground, covered in blood, and no longer breathed. There was still despair and unwillingness in his eyes, but it was impossible for him to stand up again. Is Tosen Konami dead? The captains looked at his body with complicated expressions. This was the only captain of the Serai who died in this invasion. What a miserable death. But they couldn't condemn Nnoitra, because Tosen Konami's actions just now had made it clear that he had betrayed the Serai. Susanoo gradually dispersed. Nnoitra walked to Tosen Konami's body and said lightly, Although you are the captain, you are not qualified to become the new heavenly Way Pain. In your case, you should be the human Way Pain. In his mind, the future heavenly path Pain must at least be at the level of Byakuya Kuchiki. Among the 6 paths Pain, the human path Pain is responsible for intelligence gathering and close-range attacks, which is similar to Tosen Konami. Its Bankai Suzumushi final style, Yanma Cricket, perfectly meets these 2 tasks of the human path. Several black sticks condensed in his palm, and Nnoitra casually threw them through Tosen Konami's body, fixing the spirit particles in his body. Only a few more adjustments are needed, and the new human path Pain will appear. And the human path formed by Tosen Konami is likely to be the strongest among the 6 paths Pain in a short period of time. Travel disaster. UB******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Nnoitra with his eyes wide open. If he hadn't been seriously injured and unable to move, he would have taken revenge on this evil travel disaster who insulted his best friend's body. Shut up. Hiei glanced at him coldly. Isn't this guy a defector from your Seraiti? Don't look at me like that, or I'll kill you. 0. Please give me flowers. By the way, I'm also interested in your black rope heavenly punishment king. You are qualified to be my hell's pain puppet. 014501503 Filu 182,381,321. Kashimura Sajin was so angry that he almost roared. But no one cared about him. All the captains stared at Aizen Sōsuke, anger in their eyes, and rushed over without hesitation. Aizen, what the hell are you going to do? You be asterisk 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 D. A bunch of idiots. Hiei looked at them like they were fools. I've told them countless times that you can't attack Aizen Sōsuke in groups. But these guys, I don't know if it's because they've lived too long, are too arrogant, and completely ignored his warnings. But he didn't bother to care, so he just quietly dealt with Tosen Konami's body. After inserting all the black sticks, Nnoitra slapped the ground with both hands and shouted. Summoning technique Yanwang. The ferocious Yanwang statue rose from the ground, opened its mouth wide, and swallowed Tosen Konami's body into its stomach with its tongue, chewing it continuously. During this process, Nnoitra could feel that the human path pain was constantly forming. Not only did it have the ability of the human path. In its body, there were also captain-level Reiatsu, Shikai, Bankai. Aizen, Hitsugaya Toshiro roared, holding Daiguren Hiramaru and slashing it. 1,000 years of ice prison. Byakuya Kuchiki stretched out his right hand and shouted indifferently. Keng Jing, Senbon Sakura Kajiyoshi. Hiraku Shunsui stretched out his right hand and shouted. Bakudo number 75 5 pillars of iron pier. Most of the Shinigami present took action. Even old man Yamamoto chopped down without hesitation, saying angrily. Matsu Ming, facing such a violent attack. Aizen Sōsuke, holding Hōgyoku in his left hand, still had a calm smile on his face, slowly pulled out the soul-slaying sword and said. Shatter Kyōka Suigetsu. Invisible waves acted around. The next second, in the eyes of all Shinigami, ice, fire, sakura flowers, thunder, swallowed Aizen Sōsuke. But after a trance, their expressions. They suddenly widened their eyes and found in horror that their abilities were attacking teammates. Ice, sakura flowers, Kido, all hit old man Yamamoto. And old man Yamamoto's fire was also attacking them. Not good. Byakuya Kuchiki's face changed drastically. But it was too late to resist at this time. Boom. A thunderous roar sounded. All the captains who attacked were blown away, covered in wounds and large burn marks, and the captain's Haori was burned to ashes. And old man Yamamoto was not in a good condition either, with a few more wounds on his scarred body. All the captains present looked at Aizen Sōsuke angrily. Aizen Sōsuke, UB ********* D. Get out. Chapter 75. L. Existence is the terrible power of evil, seeking flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Chapter 75. The terrifying ability of existence being evil, please give me flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. What kind of weird ability is this? The Shinigami captains present were shocked. What they saw and felt just now was clearly Aizen Sōsuke, but he suddenly became the captain general. Did that kid say that he controls the 5 senses? Old man Yamamoto frowned and looked at Nnoitra. No, to be precise, it's not controlling the 5 senses. Aizen Sōsuke held the Kyōka Suigetsu in his hand and said lightly. It's complete hypnosis. Control the enemy's 5 senses, so that a specific object will mistake the posture, appearance, texture, touch, and taste of a certain object as the existence of the enemy. At this point, Aizen Sōsuke looked at old man Yamamoto and said, Captain General, you should have noticed something just now, right? Old man Yamamoto gradually narrowed his eyes. Indeed, when he was attacking just now, he inexplicably felt that the figure of Aizen Sōsuke was a little unreal. But after all, he had never seen such ability. So he still chopped down that knife. Just like what that B********** D said, can he ignore this? 647. Level of hypnosis. Sui Feng couldn't help but look at Kie. He felt a little regretful in his heart. If he had known earlier, he should have listened to Kie's words, so that he wouldn't have been hurt. Aizen Sōsuke also looked at Nnoitra and said, it's a great eye, never seen before, even my Kyōka Suigetsu can see through it. Nnoitra curled his lips and did not respond. Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin came to Aizen Sōsuke, breathed a sigh of relief, as if he had survived a disaster, and looked at Nnoitra with fear. He killed Tosen Konami so easily. If he hadn't run fast, he might have been made into that weird puppet with Tosen Konami. Is Tosen Konami dead? What a pity. Aizen Sōsuke looked at the chewing Yama, shook his head, and sighed, another companion of the past is gone. Quote. Will a guy like you still feel regretful? Tosen Konami's cold voice came from the Hades. The Hades opened its mouth, and Tosen Konami with a black stick and Rinnegan on his face crawled out. Huh. Aizen Sōsuke was stunned for a moment. The Shinigami captain present was also stunned for a moment. Tosen Konami, who had transformed into the human path pain, slowly stood up, looked at Aizen Sōsuke, and said coldly, Aizen, why do you look at me like that? Aren't we companions? As he said that, Nnoitra controlled him, holding the soul-slaying sword, and quickly rushed towards Aizen Sōsuke. Halfway through, he said coldly, Bankai, Suzumushi final style Yanma cricket. The Bankai belonging to Tosen Konami exploded, and the oval black sphere engulfed Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin and the other two were swallowed up. Except for the sense of touch, all other senses were deprived. In the middle, Tosen Konami, who turned into human Wei Pain, lifted the hearing restrictions on the two people and said indifferently. Since you are companions, if I die, shouldn't you die with me? As he said, he restricted the hearing of the two again, stepped on the ground, and his figure was like a ghost, using swordsmanship to slash fiercely. At this moment, Aizen Sōsuke rarely changed his face and pointed his right hand at the darkness. Hado 78 slashing flower wheel. A round of cold wind-like sword energy came, cracking the black light curtain covering several people. But this move did not break Bankai. Aizen Sōsuke used the second Kido without hesitation. Hado 88 flying dragon strikes thief thunder cannon. The blue thunder burst out, even surpassing the power of Kashiwamura Sajin Bankai, and smashed the black sphere Bankai with a bang. And the knife of human way pain also hit Aizen Sōsuke's shoulder, leaving a bloody mark. Aizen Sōsuke quickly took 2 steps back and looked at Tosen solemnly. Has he become stronger after being made into a puppet? The previous Tosen Konami was one of the weakest Shinigami captains, and couldn't even withstand his Kido, but now he was able to cut himself after Bankai. Nanaya's mouth curled up a little, looking at the new human way of pain with satisfaction. After being made into a puppet by himself, he could transmit his own Reiatsu to him, and could not control the other party to use his own swordsmanship. His strength was naturally much stronger than before. Seeing this scene, not only Aizen Sōsuke became solemn, but all the Shinigami captains present changed their faces. Looking at Nanaya's eyes, it was as if he was looking at a devil. After killing someone, he controlled the other party's corpse and burst out with a stronger strength than when he was alive. What an evil power this is, it's not an exaggeration to call it a devil's behavior. As the saying goes, when a person dies, his debts are settled. But Nanaya's ability is that people can't rest in peace even after death, and become his puppets to fight for him. If Nanaya is on the side of justice, it's fine. But if he is on the side of evil, with this terrible ability alone, he has the opportunity to fight the entire Soul Society on his own. But old man Yamamoto has experienced many ups and downs after all, and he didn't care too much about the new human way pain. Instead, he stepped forward and appeared in front of the traitor, Aizen Sōsuke, waving Ryūjin Jakka, and slashed again fiercely. Nanaya was a little helpless when he saw this scene, and said, "Stinky old man, that's your other disciple." Kyoka Shunsui's scalp suddenly numbed. No wonder he felt burning, it felt like the old man was going to chop him with a knife. This knife was dodged by Kyoka Shunsui. Open black lens bracket 014501503 Filu 182,381,481. Old man Yamamoto frowned, not daring to swing his sword again, fearing that he would kill the other Shinigami captains with one sword. How about it, old man, do you want to listen to my command? Hiei crossed his arms and asked with interest. Old man Yamamoto's eyelids jumped, and his veins jumped. He almost couldn't help but kill the hateful kid first. During the time the two were delayed, a pure black crack suddenly appeared in the sky of the Zaraki, as if it was torn apart by some hideous and hateful demon with his hands. As that, the black cavity. Sui Feng's pupils trembled, and he lost his voice. How can there be a black cavity of Manos Grande here? The other captains were also shocked. The black cavity is the passage of Manos Grande, used to invade the present world, and has never been heard of invading the Zaraki. Roar. A hoarse roar came from the black cavity. Dozens of pure black, shading the sky and the sun, Jillians with pale white masks, poured out from the black cracks and struggled desperately. And in the darkness behind them, there was a larger figure. The light from the eyes alone was comparable to a flashlight. Amid the roars of these Manos Grande, the golden light gradually enveloped Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin, gradually forming a circular channel. Manos Grande's negation. This is the space channel used by Manos Grande to receive companions, and there is no way to break it. Byakuya Kuchiki recognized this phenomenon and looked at the two people in the negation indifferently. Aizen, Ichimaru Jin, are you colluding with Manos Grande? All Shinigami's eyes turned cold at this moment, looking at the figure of Aizen Sōsuke intently. Even if Aizen Sōsuke betrayed Zaraki, they were prepared, because there were captains who betrayed before. However, colluding with Manos Grande was something that could not be forgiven in any way. Shinigami and Hollows were mortal enemies. The kind that could not be reconciled in any way. Being watched by everyone, Aizen Sōsuke's body gradually floated upwards, high above, and said lightly. In pursuit of a higher realm. Jashiro Yukitaki stepped forward and said in a deep voice. Have you fallen, Aizen? Aizen Sōsuke didn't care, looking down at the Shinigami below and said. You are too arrogant, fuxing. No one has been standing on the top of the sky since the beginning. Whether you, or me, even God, but the unbearable vacancy of the throne of heaven will soon end. From now on, I will stand at the top. At this point, Aizen Sōsuke has come to the edge of the black crack and said lightly. Goodbye, Shinigami, goodbye, and, Nanaya, you are really interesting as a human being. What are you pretending to be? Nanaya rolled his eyes and interrupted Aizen Sōsuke's words. He hated this kind of high-handed attitude. What's wrong with humans? Eating your rice. Licking his lips, Hiei stared at the Manos Grande that was sticking out of the crack with some greed, stepped on his feet, and ran over quickly. Having been in Jinglington for more than half a month, he missed the spiritual power of Shu. Wait, Hiei, that's negation, there's no way to destroy it. Shihuin Yoruichi wanted to stop Hiei. But in the next second, her beautiful eyes widened. Because in her sight, Tieni actually ran straight into the golden negation. Chapter 76. reversing the Tiangong and tearing the sky apart. Susanoo, asking for flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Chapter 76. Reverse the Tiangong, tear the sky apart. Susanoo, please give flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. The Hollow's counterattack didn't stop him. The Shinigami around couldn't help but gasp. Negation isolates the world from each other. Once the target is surrounded by this light, it is equivalent to being in another space. People outside the negation cannot access the inside. This is a very powerful defensive move, even old man Yamamoto is helpless. However, Tianyi can easily penetrate it. Aizen Sōsuke was a little absent-minded, staring at the figure of Nnoitra below. He had never seen a guy like this before. Obviously just a human, but relying on his own strength, not only disrupted his plan, but also killed his capable subordinate Tosen Konami. Now, even his backup, negation will penetrate it. No way. Ichimaru Jin sweated coldly on his forehead. If negation was shattered, Aizen Sōsuke would definitely not die, but he might not. Thinking of this, he hurriedly looked at the Manos Grande above his head, and he was so anxious that he wanted them to use all their strength. Damn hollow, pull it quickly. However, after Kie tried it for a while and found that the attack was fruitless, he set his sights on Jillian behind the black crack. It was the hideous-looking Manos Grande, but he couldn't help swallowing his saliva. He could feel the opponent's power attracting him. It seemed that after swallowing a lot of Shinigami's spiritual power, the power of the hollow became delicious. 03. Universal pull. A strong gravitational force broke out. A hideous-looking Jillian was pulled down from the crack. Shinra Tensei. Under the strong repulsive force, the gravitational force and the repulsive force collided, directly tearing the Jillian into pieces and turning it into a sky full of spirit particles. After absorbing these spirit particles, Kia's eyes became more and more fanatical, and he shouted. Shinra Tensei. His figure flew up. After Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin entered the black cavity, Kie still launched a violent attack on Manos Grande around the crack. Amaterasu. Flame control. The immortal black flame ignited the figure of Manos Grande, and even negation was burned by it. Aizen Sōsuke's face was rarely ugly, and he looked at Kie with cold eyes, then walked into the darkness and said. Interesting human, I hope you have this courage next time. Ichimaru Jin hurriedly followed Aizen Sōsuke. After the two left, Jillian in the black crack roared and retreated away from the black crack, and looked at Yiya with fear. Even though they were almost irrational, they were shocked by the horror of the human in front of them. Someone would actually kill them with negation. Where is this lunatic? As all the Manos Grandes retreated, the black cracks in the sky gradually healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Kie, who saw this scene, was anxious and said, wait, I haven't eaten enough. Most of the hollows that invaded Karakura Town in the present world were ordinary hollows, with extremely scarce spiritual power, and he couldn't eat enough. If these Jillians were allowed to run away, I don't know when the Rinnegan would be able to evolve. However, after hearing this, Jillian, who was a little more rational, ran faster, fearing that she would be eaten by Kie if she was a step slower. It has always been these Manos Grandes who eat humans. And the human below actually wanted to eat Manos Grandes, which was simply against the sky. Damn it, do you think you can run away? Kie gritted his teeth in anger, stepped on the ground, and under the effect of repulsion, he actually forcibly invaded the black cavity. Facing the crack that was about to close, he didn't care and roared. Susanoo. The complete form of Susanoo appeared out of thin air. Its huge hands grabbed the black crack that was about to close, and with the force of both hands, it actually tore it open again. Its entire upper body crawled into the crack, and two more Jillians were killed with the slap of its hands. The Jillians inside were dumbfounded. This is too fierce. It tore the black cavity apart and crawled into them. Isn't it a fellow in human skin? After swallowing the power of two virtual spirits, Kia's eyes became more and more fanatical. With the force of both hands, the complete form of Susanoo actually blasted into the black cavity. All mine, don't run. The Shinigami outside the black cavity was stunned. Watching the blue warrior wielding the Susanoo sword in the black crack, chasing Jillian away. Then, the black crack gradually healed. The scene was suddenly silent. No one spoke for a long time. After an unknown amount of time, Kurosaki Ichigo pointed at the sky that had returned to normal, and said with some toothache. Did that guy Nnoitra enter Hueco Mundo? Ishida Ryu, Inoue Orihime, Sato Yasutora, Shihuin Yoruichi and others twitched at the corners of their mouths, wishing they could cover their eyes. Even the taciturn Sato Yasutora couldn't help but say at this moment, Nnoitra, isn't he a little too lively? First one person broke into Soul Society, and now another person broke through Hueco Mundo. Is this the rhythm for them to break into Hueco Mundo as well? Then, should we go find Nnoitra? Inoue Orihime blinked. Kurosaki Ichigo. Ishida Ryu. Sato Yasutora. Kurosaki Ichigo and others are not the only ones who have mixed feelings. For example, Byakuya Kuchiki, Hiraku Shunsui, and Jashiro Yukitaki, their feelings are even more complicated, and heavy regrets surge in their hearts. Ah, Hiraku Shunsui sighed, scratched his head and said, Really, if I had known this, I should have listened to Nnoitra just now. The other captains were speechless. Nnoitra's eyes clearly restrained Kyōka Suigetsu. If they could attack according to Nnoitra's words, Aizen Sōsuke would definitely not escape from the Zaraki. And now, Aizen Sōsuke and Ichimaru Jin entered Hueco Mundo and cooperated with the Hollows. It must be more difficult to deal with. They will definitely be the enemy of Soul Society in the future. And all this was caused by them. Even old man Yamamoto felt a little regretful at this moment, but he couldn't show it, which made him more depressed. Then are we still fighting? Jashiro Yukitake couldn't help but look at Kurosaki Ichigo and others. Both sides looked at each other in bewilderment. Old man Yamamoto snorted coldly, said nothing more, retracted his soul-slaying sword, and disappeared in the ruins of Mao's execution ground in a flash. Seeing that the captain-in-chief had left, the Shinigami captain present also had an idea in his mind. All 46 chambers have been destroyed, what's the point of fighting? Hiroku Shinsei shook his head helplessly. Even if he caught the Tadashi, who could he be handed over to for trial? After saying that, Hiroku Shinsei walked towards Unohana Retsu and Inoue Orihime, smiling and saying, "Ladies, can you treat me?" Inoue Orihime came back to his senses, nodded in a panic, and said, "Of course, you stand there and don't move, I will use." "Get out of here." Boom. Unohana Retsu chopped Hiroku Shinsei away with a knife, gritting his teeth and looking at the sky. "Nanai, are you running away?" It was clearly agreed that after the battle was over, he would accompany me to kill every day. The corner of Hiroku Shinsei's mouth twitched. On the other side, Sui Feng also reacted, breathed a sigh of relief, and no longer paid attention to Kurosaki Ichigo and others. With a red face, he looked at Shihoin Yoruichi and said, "Yoruichi, sit down." Shihoin Yoruichi. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly at her traitor. Quote, "Ichigo, let's continue the fight." Zaraki Kenpachi's fanatical voice sounded, and he rushed over with bandages all over his body. Kurosaki Ichigo's scalp suddenly numbed, and he quickly ran away, saying, "I don't want to fight with you, hurry up and hurt me." Unohana Retsu looked over, and with anger in his eyes, he pulled out the blade. Zaraki Kenpachi, come on, I'll fight you. Quote. At the same time, Hueco Mundo, the king of the endless white desert. A loud boom. Hia's figure fell from the sky, holding a Jillian in his hand, like a meteorite, knocking a big hole in the desert. Under the powerful shock wave, the white desert was stirred up by sand waves like a tsunami. When the desert gradually returned to calm, Hie took a quick look at the surrounding environment, scratched his hair, and said helplessly, "Where did this come from? Is this still Hueco Mundo?" Looking around, it was all white desert, and not even a big Asahi figure was seen. And in the depths of the white desert, Reiatsu, ordinary hollows, Jillian, Ejukas, countless Manos Grande who noticed the outsiders raised their heads. Looking greedily at this side, roaring. Chapter 77. The little girl Manos Grande, Arrancar Manos Grande of the Palace of Night, asking for flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. Chapter 77 Manos Grande Little girl, Arrancar Manos Grande of the Kion Palace, please give me flowers, monthly tickets, and rewards. How did we end up in this hellhole? In the white desert, Hie used repulsion to float in the air and looked around with a frown on his face. Even with the Rinnegan's vision, he couldn't see the end of the white desert. It was all white desert, as if it was endless. Before, in the black cavity, he randomly found a place to use the hollow ability to shuttle. I didn't expect to appear in such a hellhole. Don't even mention Espada, I can't even see the shadow of Kion Palace. Forget it, just treat it as an outing. Hie shook his head and flew forward while absorbing spiritual power. The spiritual power of the Shinigami world has the power of Shinigami. And the spiritual power of Hueco Mundo also has the breath of Hollow. When absorbing the spiritual power of Hueco Mundo, Hie could clearly feel that the spiritual power of Hueco Mundo was merging with the spiritual power in his body. The eyes of both eyes gradually became hot. After flying for about a few hours, Hie suddenly stopped in midair. He blinked his eyes in surprise. Kamui. It seemed that after consuming a large amount of Hollow's spiritual power, Sharingan, or Rinnegan, awakened a new ability again after a long time. Although it is not the ability of Tengai Shinsei, Infinite Tsukuyomi, this ability is not bad. Maybe it can let me return to Soul Society. Hia's heart was ecstatic. He looked around and prepared to find something to test the pupil technique Kamui he had obtained. At this moment, a roar came from a distance. In the white desert, hundreds of Manos Grande with pale masks on their faces and holes on their chests rushed over with greedy faces. Spirit, spiritual power, it tastes like Shinigami. Eat him, as long as I eat this Shinigami, I can evolve to Jillian, or even Ejuka's level. Don't fight with me. Quote. Deafening roars came one after another. There are so many sensible hollows here, which shows the danger of Hueco Mundo. But Kie was not surprised but happy about it. He was worried that the absorption of spiritual power was too slow, and where to find hollows. It can be said that they were running in both directions. So, in the astonished eyes of these Manos Grande, Kia's figure, like a black meteor, appeared directly in front of them. After a few seconds, these Manos Grande reacted and rushed to bite. At the same time, Nanaya's eyes turned from Rinnegan to Mangekyo Sharingan, staring at the hollow that rushed to the front, and said indifferently. Kamui. Instantly, the space around this Manos Grande was distorted like Uzumaki. The distortion of space also distorted his body. After a flash, the distorted space and the distorted Manos Grande disappeared, as if they were bitten by a monster. Many Manos Grandes who saw this scene couldn't help but sweat on their foreheads. But Nanaya's actions did not stop because of this. Kamui. 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 The space continued to distort, and Uzumaki-like spaces appeared one after another. A large number of hollows were turned into spirits by Nanaya. Looking at such a horrifying scene in front of him, even though the hollow was synonymous with nothingness and greed, he was scared to death. He didn't dare to attack the seemingly thin boy, and he was about to escape from here. Stop, Amaterasu. How could Kie let them leave? Another pupil technique burst out from his eyes. The black flame formed a wall of flames around him. It seemed to have no temperature, but no hollow could pass through it. A slight touch would burn him. Kie licked his lips and walked over. Afterwards, after dealing with many Manos Grande, he looked at the little Manos Grande girl below with some surprise, who was only as tall as his calves. In the hollow palace, Aizen Sōsuke sat on the throne, like a high god, looking down at the many Arrancar Manos Grande standing below. Ichimaru Jin stood beside him like a servant. Recalling what happened not long ago, their faces still look a little ugly. As the captain and the ruler of Hueco Mundo, they were chased into the Black Cave and slashed several times by the opponent with a knife. If they had not left the Black Cave quickly, that guy would have slashed them a few more times. Human. Aizen Sōsuke muttered to himself, looking at Ulquiorra below, and said. How is it, have you found that guy? Ulquiorra cipher has distinctive features. He has short black hair, pale skin, deep green eyes, and a unique dark green tear-shaped Arrancar pattern on his face that attracts attention. Espada number 4 is prominently engraved on the left chest. It looks mysterious and majestic. After hearing what Aizen Sōsuke said, Ulquiorra came out and said calmly and indifferently. Lord Aizen, I searched the territory I am responsible for according to your instructions, and found no trace of human invaders. The other Arrancar Manos Grande also nodded. Really? Aizen Sōsuke tapped his index finger, thought for a while, and said in a cold voice. Then keep looking. As long as you find that guy, you Espada will take him down together. Quote. The Arrancar Manos Grande present were shocked. They felt how much Aizen Sōsuke valued Nanaya. It was a relentless pursuit. Any Espada's returned blade had a destructive power that was almost enough to destroy the world, but Aizen Sōsuke still asked them to cooperate. Ulquiorra nodded indifferently and calmly. The other Arrancar Manos Grande did not speak. But Grimmjow could not help but snorted coldly, crossed his arms, and walked out of the crowd. He looked at Aizen Sōsuke with a defiant look. Aizen, you are so afraid of those two guys, could it be that you are not their opponent? Hearing this, the Arrancar Manos Grande present were shocked and subconsciously looked at Aizen Sōsuke. Hundreds of years ago, Aizen Sōsuke, Tosen Konami Ichimaru Jin, and the three of them invaded Hueco Mundo together, defeated the then King Baragan, and became Hueco Mundo's new master. Since then, Aizen Sōsuke has created countless Arrancar Manos Grande through his research. Each of them has great power. As the best among them, Espada has the power to destroy the world after returning to the blade. However, after so many years, Aizen Sōsuke's power has been greatly reduced, so he needs their help. Many Arrancar Manos Grande's eyes flickered. Among them was Baragan, who flashed with murderous intent in his eyes, and his heart was fluctuating. He couldn't help but put his hand on the soul-slaying sword. As long as Aizen Sōsuke showed weakness, he would rush up and kill him without hesitation. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Aizen Sōsuke didn't care at all, but said lightly. Don't get me wrong, it's just that guy's ability is weird, it's a bit troublesome to kill him, so you need your power. And, Grimmjow, are you provoking me? As he said, Aizen Sōsuke looked at Grimmjow coldly, his Reiatsu rising, raised his right hand, and said. I'll give you a little punishment, I hope you remember this lesson. Quote. Come on. Grimmjow's eyes were fanatical, and he burst out a violent blue Reiatsu, which was as powerful as Sajin Kashiwamura's Bankai. At this time, he drew out his soul-slaying sword and roared to the sky. Crunch. Leopard King. Suddenly, Grimmjow, who had already burst out with a terrifying Reiatsu, became even more powerful, as if he had turned into a cheetah. The ground of the Palace of Night was broken, unable to withstand such a violent Reiatsu. In this state, Grimmjow seemed to have turned into a blue-haired white cheetah, landing on all fours and shooting out violently. Aizen Sōsuke didn't care about it, and said indifferently. Bakudo 63. Chain binding. The golden chain appeared out of thin air, without giving him a chance to react, and instantly wrapped around Grimmjow's body. Then, as Grimmjow struggled, the other Espada Manos Grande was solemn. A bright red blood light burst out from his body. DBU. Grimmjow's left arm flew out. The bright red blood light dyed the ground of the Palace of Night in red, which made people shudder. Arrancar Manos Grande, who was present, took a breath of cold air. He couldn't believe what was happening in front of him. Because they didn't find out when Aizen Sōsuke made the move from beginning to end. It was as if Grimmjow's arm was broken by himself. Chapter 78 Nell 2 Odelschwenk. Chapter 78 Nell 2 Odelschwenk. There was silence in the Kyoya Palace. After many years, seeing Aizen Sōsuke again was still as frightening as it was 100 years ago. Baragan's eyelids twitched, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent, but he finally held back. The other Arrancar Manos Grande also fell silent. Aizen was still the same Aizen, an existence they could not resist. Ichimaru Jin saw it clearly from the side. The knife just now was Aizen Sōsuke, who first used Kyōka Suigetsu's complete hypnosis and then cut it off at an extremely fast speed. Unless he could see through Kyōka Suigetsu and did not have a Reiatsu comparable to Aizen Sōsuke's. There was almost no way to counter this move. Aizen Sōsuke sat on the throne, looking at the broken-armed Grimmjow calmly, and said calmly. Grimmjow, this is just once. If there is a next time, I will kill you with my own hands. The voice was calm, but frightening. The Arrancar Manos Grande present bowed their heads one after another, expressing their submission to Aizen Sōsuke. Grimmjow gritted his teeth and nodded. I know. Is it such a coincidence? In the endless white desert. Hiei held the little girl Manos Grande in his hand, letting her struggle in his hand, looking at the little girl with strange eyes. Having lake green hair, red horizontal facial lines on his face, wearing gray-green coarse cloth clothes, and walking. There is a scar on the forehead extending to the right side of the nose. There is a white mask on his forehead, which looks more like a skull. He has already recognized this little girl. She is the top 3 Espada of the Night Palace, Nell 2 Odelschwenk. A queen and a Lolita who can change size at will. Let me go. Let me go. Nailu is not delicious at all. Please don't eat Nailu. I will take you to eat delicious food, okay? Nailu struggled while looking at Kie pitifully. She saw everything that happened just now. The handsome boy in front of her was definitely a fellow in human skin. No, it was a demon in human skin. There were thousands of Manos Grande. He killed them all by himself, and the remaining bodies were all devoured by him. Be quiet, I don't eat children. Hiei knocked on Nailu's forehead, and the latter's eyes were immediately filled with tears. And you too, stop hiding over there, come here. Hiei looked at the white sand in the distance. He waved his hand, and a strong gravitational force burst out, directly pulling the 2 Manos Grande hidden in the sand over. Ah, help, Lord Nailu. The 2 Manos Grande cried out in terror for help. One of the Manos Grandes had a mask similar to that of a termite, with a blindfold on the right eye nailed on, and a round eye socket with a diamond-shaped pupil on the left eye. The other Manos Grande had a huge face and a Madara-colored back, and looked like a colorful Easter statue. After being pulled over, the termite-like Manos Grande slid to his knees in front of Kie with a plop, hugged Kie's thighs and wailed. Humans, sir, we are really not delicious at all. I haven't taken a bath for many years, and I have never gone to the toilet since. Then why don't you let me go? Chai's face was dark and he punched down, knocking the termite-like Manos Grande dizzy. The Manos Grande, who was similar to a colorful Easter statue, whispered, well, we are weak, and we never wash ourselves. Shut up too. Bang. After educating the 2 Manos Grandes with 2 punches, the 2 Manos Grande knelt down in front of Kie obediently. There were only 2 big lumps on his forehead. His eyes were full of tears. They looked at each other and saw the tears in each other's eyes. This is Hueco Mundo. Such a terrible human being appeared. He punched down casually with amazing brute force, almost comparable to Sero released by Jillian. The 2 former subordinates of the 3rd Espada had almost no power to resist. Very good, now I will ask questions and you answer them. What the hell is this place? Hiei pointed to the endless white sand around. Nailu knows. Nailu, who looked like a little girl, raised her hand first and said, this is the White Desert, the upper layer of Hueco Mundo. Upper layer. The termite-like Manos Grande quickly explained. Hueco Mundo is divided into 2 layers, upper and lower. Weaker voids like us are active in the upper layer. As for the lower layer, it is under the white sand. There is the Manos Grande forest, with endless Manos Grande. Quote. I heard that there are many Jillians and Ajukas there. I heard from other voids that there are even Vastad-level voids. After asking for a while, Hiei nodded thoughtfully. He really didn't expect the structure of Hueco Mundo to be so complicated. The slightly weaker voids are located in the upper layer. After killing each other and devouring each other, they will become Jillian and enter the lower space. The lower space is a more cruel breeding ground. Ordinary Jillians often have to devour thousands of their own kind before they have a chance to become upper-level Ajukas. As for Vastads of higher Ada levels, I don't know how many of their own kind they have to devour. 014501503 Philu 182,391,301. Because they don't know the existence of Vastad. Then where is the Palace of Void? Quote. Hiei asked. As for the Palace of Void, it's not too far from our location, it's almost in that direction. The termite-like Manos Grande answered obediently. Nanai nodded slightly. He was not interested in a conflict with the Hueco Palace. After all, Aizen Sōsuke was still very strong. The termite-like Manos Grande, also known as Katashi, said cautiously, Sir Nnoitra, we'd better leave here quickly. Why? Nanai asked in surprise. The Easter statue-like Manos Grande, also known as Bilstein, explained to Nnoitra, Sir Nnoitra, the spiritual power you just burst out was a little strong. It might be noticed by the Manos Grande of the Hueco Palace. The Manos Grande there might come to arrest people. It doesn't matter. Nnoitra shook his head. In the entire Hueco Mundo, the Manos Grande and Shinigami that could make him feel difficult could be counted on his fingers. It doesn't matter if the ordinary Arrancar Manos Grande comes. At this time, Nailu had calmed down, and realized that Kie had no ill intentions, so she happily climbed onto his shoulders. Kie, what are you doing here? Kie's mouth curled up a little, and pinched her little nose. I'm here to eat. Hearing the word, eat, Nailu immediately thought of the tragedy just now, and her beautiful big eyes became watery again. Kie, are you going to eat Nailu too? How could that be? Kie smiled and rubbed Nailu's head, thought about it, and entered the hollow, and took out something from the Kamui space. Hey, this is the confito I stole from Soul Society, which is a very high-end snack. Seeing the candies in Kia's hand, Nailu suddenly became excited, put the candy in her mouth, and waved her palm happily. Kie, this is really delicious. Of course. Kia's mouth curled up a little. The food in Soul Society is rich in spiritual power, which can be used not only as food, but also as a prop to restore spiritual power. He had snatched it from the 11th division, and Kusajishi Yakiru was very angry about it. After a while, Nailu, Katashi, and Bilstein were completely relieved and fought with Kie. Kie said at the right time, Nailu, Katashi, Bilstein, do you want to go to Manos Grande Forest with me? The three of them were stunned for a moment, and Katashi muttered in fear. Why go there? Most of the hollows there are crazy, killing each other every day, and have no reason at all. Although he used to be strong, his strength after being seriously injured is only Jillian's level. If he was placed in the Manos Grande Forest, I don't know how many Manos Grandes would be delicious. If he is not careful, he will become a stepping stone for other Jillians. Kie was about to say something. Suddenly, he paused. The purple Rinnegan looked at the white desert in the southwest, narrowed his eyes slightly, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and said, what a strong malice, a guest is coming. At the same time, in that white desert, short golden brown hair, delicate face, blue mark on the right cheek, mask on the forehead, white knee-length Arrancar outfit. There is a black pirate-style eye mask on the right eye, and a round soul-slaying sword on the back. Looking like a high school student, he rushed over here quickly, with coldness flashing in his eyes, muttering to himself. Chapter 79 Susanoo 99, Angry Nnoitra. Chapter 79 Susanoo 99, Angry Nnoitra. What are you looking at, Nnoitra? Little Nello lay on Nnoitra's shoulder, curiously looking in Nnoitra's direction. But with her vision, she couldn't see anything. It's not coming for me. Nnoitra muttered to herself. If it was an enemy coming to deal with her, it couldn't be so weak, and the Reiatsu it burst out couldn't even compare to Kashiwamura Sajin. With Aizen Sōsuke's personality, if he determined his position, he would at least send 5 Espada. Nello, Kadish, and Bilstein looked at each other, completely unaware of what Nnoitra was talking about. But soon they knew. Sensing the Reiatsu sweeping in from a distance, Kadish and Bilstein's faces changed drastically, and they took 2 steps back and said. It's Nnoitra's subordinate officer. Damn it, it must be our Reiatsu that just leaked out. Dial, he is stronger than us now, we have to leave quickly. Speaking, Kadish quickly looked at Kie and Nailu, and said, Master Kie, we have to leave quickly, that guy is Nnoitra's subordinate officer, very powerful. That's right. Bilstein nodded frantically. If he is entangled, Nnoitra will definitely come. Nnoitra. Kie raised his eyebrows, not paying attention to the figure coming from a distance, and said, tell me, what grudges do you have? Kadish and Bilstein almost cried. But thinking of the devilish Kie, they could only put Nailu aside and explained in a very low voice, pitifully. Sir Kie, this has to start with the identity of Sir Nailu. I will try to speak faster. Sir Nailu was originally the 3rd Espada of the Palace of Night, also known as Nelialu Dukevna. Nnoitra, because of gender discrimination, couldn't stand Sir Nailu as a woman, and attacked Sir Nailu during a mission. In order to protect us, Sir Nailu was slashed on the forehead by that guy, which is the scar on her face. Since then, Sir Nailu has become like this child. Kadish described the incident in detail. Kie raised his eyebrows, bent down to pick up little Nailu, knocked her forehead, and teased. Fool, you are so kind even though you are a hollow. When facing such an evil guy, you should kill him as soon as possible. At that time, Nell was the 3rd Espada, and Nnoitra was the 8th Espada. As long as Nell wanted, she could kill this guy in a minute. But she raised a tiger and became a threat, and was attacked by the other party. Nell looked at Kie in confusion, and didn't understand, so she lowered her head and ate Conpetra again. Tat. The 2 hollows looked at Kie pitifully. Kie turned his head and said lightly, Don't worry, I still count on you to lead the way for me next, leave this matter to me. The two hollows couldn't help but smile bitterly, looking at the figure coming from a distance with worry. They admitted that Kie was very strong and could easily defeat them, so there was a high probability that he could also defeat this subordinate officer. But what about Nnoitra next? That person is the fifth Espada now, and his strength is not much less than that of Nell in her heyday. Three useless people, are you waiting to die? Dazel stopped, looked at Nell and the other two with cold eyes, and said. You dare to wander outside the Zai Palace. Although you are half useless, in order not to cause trouble for Lord Nnoitra, you should all die here honestly. After saying that, Dazel found Kie next to him, frowned, and said. Shinigami. No, human. Compared to Shinigami, Kie obviously has a body. Who are you? Why can humans come here? Kie ignored his words, picked up little Nell with both hands, put it on her neck, and then looked at him, raised the corner of his mouth and asked. Didn't Aizen tell you about me? Lord Aizen. Dazel's pupils shrank, and he had an ominous premonition in his heart. Aizen Sōsuke is now the lord of Hueco Mundo, known as the king, but this human in front of him has no respect for him. Suddenly, Dazel suddenly thought of something, pointed at Kie in horror, and said, Are you the invader that Aizen Tianren asked us to find? Yes, did that guy say anything? Kie asked with a smile. He felt that Aizen Sōsuke must hate him to the point of gnashing his teeth. Before, if he hadn't left the black cavity in advance, Aizen Sōsuke would definitely kill him and dig out his eyes for research. Dazel's face turned pale, and he couldn't help but take a step back. Thinking about what Aizen Sōsuke said, he became more and more anxious, swallowed his saliva, turned around and ran towards the direction of the Kion Palace without saying a word. This monster, Aizen said that to deal with him, it would take multiple Espadas to attack together, I can't be his opponent. The more he thought about it, the more panicked he became. Daisila simply drew out his soul-slaying sword under the shocked eyes of the three hollows, Nell, Kadish, and Nnoitra, and roared. Ambush. Fang armor. Instantly, the top vice-captain level Reiatsu erupted, and his whole body changed. The original handsome face was gone, replaced by a 3-meter-tall, dark red skin, fanged wild boar Manos Grande. He gasped and blew out 2 white mists. However, after entering this posture, he did not think about fighting Nanaya. Instead, he ran wildly at an accelerated speed. He turned his head while running and shouted. Look at Sero. His left eye turned red, and the powerful spiritual power gathered and compressed, forming a red flash like a laser. Nanai laughed at this, Rinnegan fluctuated, and green Reiatsu burst out of his body, gradually condensing the figure of Susanoo. 0. Just right, help me try out the new ability. Susanoo, whose whole body was green, like a burning green flame, was formed with only the upper body, but it looked extremely violent. This is the new ability awakened by Mangekyo Sharingan after swallowing the hollow spiritual power. Susanoo of Uchiha Shisui in Hokage. Boom. The red flash hit Susanoo, and the sound was like thunder in broad daylight. But the movement was great, but the damage was small. Susanoo in the third stage was hit, and even the outer armor did not crack. Dazel took a breath of cold air. The Sero that he released with all his strength was actually useless, and it did not even break the opponent's defense. Kie said lightly, Susanoo 99. The moment the voice fell, the chest armor of the green Susanoo opened wide, revealing the red inside, forming an arrow. A buururu. 99 green arrows shot out from it. 0. It was like 99 green meteors streaking across the sky, so fast that it was almost impossible to catch with the naked eye. Seeing this scene, Dazel roared unwillingly, and used all his Reiatsu on his arm and roared. Tooth shield. The white material like wild boar tusks protected his left arm like armor. He tried to use this arm to block the arrows. However, when the torrent of green arrows ended, Dazel's eyes gradually dimmed, and his body fell heavily in the white sand. There were exactly 99 arrows stuck in his body. Too weak, didn't even block an arrow. Kie shook his head, dispelled the green Susanoo, stepped slightly, and appeared in front of the corpse almost instantly, saying. But it's okay, the combat power of the top vice-captain, plus the appearance of a wild boar, from today on, you are a beast. Kie summoned the King of Hell casually, swallowed the corpse into the King of Hell's mouth and chewed it. At the same time, in the Palace of the Night, Aizen Sōsuke, Ichimaru Jin, Ulquiorra, Grimmjow, Nnoitra. Any existence with a little bit of strength noticed something, their faces changed drastically, and they turned their heads sharply to look at the place where Dasil was killed. The first Espada Stark scratched his hair helplessly, and said lazily, No way, just come here and make trouble. He could clearly feel that the Reiatsu outside the Palace of the Night was not Manos Grande, but a human or Shinigami. Is it the invader that Master Aizen mentioned? Ulquiorra looked at Aizen Sōsuke with a cold gaze. Grimmjow gritted his teeth unwillingly and covered his broken arm that had just recovered. If he hadn't been injured, he would definitely not be able to resist the provocation of the other party. Among the many Manos Grande, the most angry one was Nnoitra, and even Golden Reiatsu had burst out from his body. He roared to the sky in extreme anger. Damn B asterisk 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 D, you dared to kill Sile. Billion. I found you. Nellialu. Chapter 80. Manos Grande Forest, the Espada Attack. Chapter 80. Manos Grande Forest, the Attacking Espada. No way, it was killed with one sword. Compared to that, what is this giant? Why does it feel scarier than Yami? Katisha and Bilstein looked at the green Susanoo and were frightened and broke out in a cold sweat, swallowing their saliva involuntarily. They realized that they had underestimated this human who invaded Hueco Mundo before. It was able to chop Katisha, the subordinate officer of Nnoitra, the fifth Espada, to pieces with one sword in the posture of returning to the blade. It was so terrifying. It was worthy of being a monster that dared to invade Hueco Mundo alone. If it was placed in the Espada, it might replace the position of Lady Nell and become the third Espada. Thinking of Nell, they reacted and turned their heads left and right, panicking to find the girl with green hair. Soon, they saw Nell's figure. I saw Nell lying on Nanaya's head, stuffing candy into her mouth, and curiously looking at the king of hell not far away. Nell, what is that? Nell smiled and pinched Nell's cheek. This is the pain manufacturing workshop, which can turn that guy, 170, into a puppet. Puppet. So powerful. Will that bad guy listen to Nanaya in the future? Of course, I will go back to Baudu Naidu. While the two were talking, Dessler came out with a black stick on his face and an extremely cold expression. Come on, try the return blade. Nell said impatiently. He was very interested in Manos Grande's return blade. Because this might be the future evolution path of Rinnegan. The latter drew out the soul-slaying sword and said coldly. Ambush. Fang Kaishi. The violent Reiatsu burst out, evil and deep. Far more powerful than the spiritual power that Dessler had shown before, his figure once again transformed into a ferocious wild boar Manos Grande. In terms of spiritual power alone, he was only a few points weaker than Kashiwamura Sajin. Not bad. Hiei nodded with satisfaction. Dessler's own spiritual power, plus his own spiritual power, has made this former subordinate officer reach a level close to the captain. From now on, not counting the human way of pain, his own beast way of pain also has the power to fight the captain. Katisha and Bilstein were sweating profusely. People can be made into puppets after death, so the demon in front of them will not target Lord Nailu. Thinking of this, they wished they could hug Nailu right now, and then run away from this demon. Noticing the change in the attitude of the two hollows, Hiei raised his lips slightly, looked at them, and said, "Come with me, I have a way to treat Nell. You don't want to take her hiding all the time, and live in fear every day." Katishi's two hollows suddenly widened their eyes. Really? Can you cure Lady Nell? It's not that they didn't think about treating Nell. But Nell was injured so badly that the hollow's mask was broken. There is really no way to restore the original posture. Of course, our nurse is very brave. Hiei thought of Inoue Orihime and Unohana Retsu, and couldn't help but smile. The latter is the captain of the 4th Division, Grandmaster Kaido, and even his soul-slaying sword is a biological healing system. As long as he is not dead, he can be saved. The former is stronger. Even if Shield Shunrika who invaded the realm of God is dead, there may be a chance to save her. Then we will go with you, Master Kie. Kadish and Bilstein agreed eagerly, their eyes filled with joy and excitement. A moment later, in the boundless white desert, Susanoo, burning with green spiritual fire, like the complete form of the god of war, rose from the ground and looked at the white sand under his feet. In the crystal on his forehead, Tianyi hugged Nailu and said, "Keep away, don't hurt you." Kadish and Bilstein's scalps numbed, opened their legs and ran away, shouting as they ran. Master Kie, no matter how you say it, it's too outrageous. This place is at least a few hundred meters deep from the Manos Grande forest. Let's go through the passage. Although it's a bit far, we can get there in 5 or 6 days. The two virtuals were a little skeptical about life. After they finished talking about how to get to the Manos Grande forest, Kie had a crazy idea and tried to break through the soil layer of the Manos Grande forest here. How do you know if you don't try? Kie licked his lips, looked at the white desert with fiery eyes, and stabbed the blade in his hand fiercely. I don't want to waste time here. Susanoo spiral sword. The divine spiral sword with green spiritual fire tumbling, pierced deep into the ground. This is Uchiha Shisui's Susanoo in the Hokage world. Its divine spiral sword has more lethality than the real power ship. Boom. The roar of destroying the world sounded. The white desert raised waves, which were dozens of meters high, and lashed all around. A huge pit was blasted out in the center. Even though Kadish and Bilstein escaped far away and stood in front of the violent white sand, they were still beaten into it. Boom, boom, boom. As the green Susanoo continued to bombard, the entire white desert trembled. The pit underground became deeper and deeper. When it reached a certain limit, the giant pit rumbled and penetrated a certain space. The green complete form of Susanoo fell into the pit. Kadish and Bilstein, who were buried by the white sand, also fell into the forest below along the white desert with screams. Is this the Manos Grande forest? Hiei looked at the surrounding environment in amazement. The tree trunk that runs through the entire Manos Grande forest has no leaves and is gray. It is called a tree trunk, but it looks more like a stone sculpture. The ground has also turned into stone, uneven, and it looks like a barren mountain wall from a distance. In the darkness, roars could be heard from time to time, and even in the darkness, Jillian's huge figure could be seen vaguely. Be careful, the voids here are all crazy. Kadish and Bilstein hid behind Kie, looking at the surrounding environment in fear. They fight crazily every day and devour each other's spiritual power. Therefore, Ejuka's level Manos Grande are not uncommon here. Be careful, because I don't know if there are any Vastad level Manos Grande here. Ah, here it comes. This guy's spiritual power is very strong, and he is about to evolve to the Ejuka's level. Halfway through the words, Kadish screamed, looking at the oncoming, ferocious Manos Grande in horror. Almost hanging his body on Kia's legs. Get out of my way, it's disgusting. Kie kicked him away with a dark face, then looked at the oncoming Manos Grande, slightly raised his eyebrows. But this is really crazy enough. Quote, in theory, Manos Grande who are close to the level of Ejukas have some rationality. But the Manos Grande in front of him has a pale white mask, white rhino horns, looks extremely ferocious, and is huge. But he still looks particularly violent. Both eyes are red. The moment he saw Kie, his eyes showed incomparable greed, and he roared and rushed over fiercely. At this level, the level of the 4th to 5th seats of the Jinglingting. After evaluating the opponent's strength, Kie couldn't help licking the corner of his mouth. Stretching out his right hand, the repulsive force of nothing burst out. Shinra Tensei. With a bang, the oncoming big shoe was blasted directly onto the stone wall. Instantly lost the breath of life. The spirit contained in the body was swallowed by Kie with hungry Kido who stretched out his hand. Here is really a blessed land. Withdrawing his palm, Kie looked at the darkness deep in the Manos Grande forest with fiery eyes. He had an inexplicable premonition. My own Rinnegan can definitely evolve here. 0.0. At the same time, in the white desert above the Manos Grande forest. Found it a bit exaggerated. Nnoitra, Haribel, Ulquiorra, Grimmjow, Yami, the 5 Espadas, looked at the ground solemnly. In front of them, there was a huge pit that penetrated the bottom layer of the Manos Grande forest. White sand kept flowing into the huge pit. The huge Yami looked at the pit in front of him and couldn't help saying, this was just formed. Could it be that the monster called Kie broke through the Manos Grande forest here? The other 4 Espadas stared at the traces on the edge of the pit with particularly solemn eyes. Ulquiorra nodded slightly and said indifferently. Look at this trace, the invader called Kie forcibly blasted open the Manos Grande forest. Quote. Why do you care so much? Nnoitra was furious and jumped down without hesitation, shouting, I will kill that guy and cut him into pieces. Chapter 81. The 5th Espada of the Night Palace, Despair, Nnoitra Gilga. Chapter 81. The 5th Espada of the Void Palace, Despair, Nnoitra Gilga. Roar, roar, roar. The violent roars came one after another. One after another, the ferocious-looking Manos Grande walked out of the darkness, their eyes red, looking at Kie who came in with extreme greed. There were no ordinary voids, the weakest ones were all Jillian. From a distance, it seemed as if there were a bunch of demons, some towering demons, some demons similar to various animals, filling the darkness. Just looking at it makes people feel chilling. Kadish was so frightened that he trembled all over. He hid behind Kie and said, Master Kie, the spiritual power in you is the most tempting delicacy for these hollows. Bilstein followed with a trembling voice and said, as long as they eat you, these Jillians may evolve into Ejukas. Really? Kie licked his lips and looked at these Manos Grande with the same fiery eyes. I didn't expect that I would become Tang Monk's meat. But I'm not as weak as Tang Monk. Amaterasu. Flame control. The left and right eye pupil techniques burst out at the same time. The left eye lit the fire, and the right eye filled the firewood. In an instant, a black flame ignited in this dark space and burned fiercely. The black immortal fire spread and swallowed a large number of Jillian-level hollows. In an instant, screams seemed to resound throughout the space. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is the howling of ghosts and wolves. Countless Manos Grande struggled in the black flame Amaterasu, but no matter what, they could not extinguish it. In just a few moments, dozens of Manos Grande were burned to ashes, and white ashes were scattered on the ground. It was only 5 or 6 minutes. There were already hundreds of Manos Grande who died under the black flame Amaterasu. This was without careful control. If the black flame Amaterasu was carefully controlled to kill the surrounding Manos Grande, the number would be 7 or 8 times higher. But Kie didn't intend to do that. Although the hollow was originally a fallen soul, it was different after it had reason. For example, Nell, although she was the 3rd Espada, had a kind personality, so there was no need to kill the Manos Grande who had not fallen into madness. Come to think of it, I also know some Kaido. Kie pinched Nell's cheek and tried to use it to heal her injuries. Little Nell looked at Kie in confusion. It still doesn't work. Kie shook his head. Professional things should be done by professionals. A few minutes later, while Kie was waiting for the opportunity, a violent roar came from afar. Invaders, get out. In the distance, Nnoitra, with golden reiatsu boiling on his body, holding a giant scythe in the shape of an 8, ran wildly. When facing things Manos Grande blocking the way, he chopped them down mercilessly. In a blink of an eye, hundreds of Manos Grande died under the knife. Among them, there was Jillian, who was rational and not crazy, but she still couldn't stop Nnoitra's crazy killing. As if venting the anger in his heart, and as if he wanted to break through the Manos Grande forest. Yes, Nnoitra, that guy. Damn it, he is still so violent, carrying out meaningless killings. Kadish and Bilstein gritted their teeth. Little Nailu was also a little annoyed, clenched her fists, but after reacting, she put 2 candies into her mouth with some frustration. Nailu can't beat him. Hiei laughed dumbly, rubbed her hair and said, I'm also killing these hollows, why are you not angry? Little Nailu shook her head. The hollows killed by Kie have fallen into madness. It is impossible for such hollows to be rational. They are not Nailu's kind. Quote. 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 Hiei nodded thoughtfully. He had a deeper understanding of the hollow race. Although they belonged to the same race, in the eyes of the rational Ajukas, the irrational hollow was the same race as them. Only the rational Manos Grande would be recognized by them. But the rational Manos Grande also had many flaws in his character, so various battles often broke out. Okay. Then go stop that guy. His mouth curled up a smile. He had swallowed so much Manos Grande's spiritual power, and he had just awakened many new abilities. I just want to find someone to try it. In a dark forest. Nnoitra, who was separated from several other Espadas, had anger in his eyes. He cut off the Manos Grande in front of him with a knife. He continued to move forward furiously, and when he saw the huge rock in the distance, he suddenly opened his mouth. Sero. The golden reiatsu gathered into a shock wave. With a loud bang, the huge rock that could be called a small mountain was shattered by the golden shock wave. Invader, get out of here. Nnoitra's eyes were filled with anger. Dazel was his capable subordinate. Since he served as the 8th Espada of the Zai Palace, he has been following him and was loyal. I didn't expect that he would die in the hands of the invader today. Just thinking about it made him want to kill, and he did so. Just when passing by a certain open space, Nnoitra's face suddenly changed drastically. He looked at the figure slowly walking out from behind the tree in the distance in disbelief. Dazel, are you still alive? The figure that walked out from behind the tree was clearly Zuola. But I clearly felt that Dazel's reiatsu disappeared in the night palace before. At this time, Dazel was already the animal path pain. The purple Rinnegan looked at Nnoitra indifferently and slapped the ground with his hand. Summoning technique Manos Grande Forest. By 57. 57. Continuous white smoke exploded. In each white smoke, a Jillian with a hideous face and a pale white mask would walk out. This is the ability of the animal path pain. In the past period of time, he forcibly contracted many Jillians in the Manos Grande Forest. Kill him. The animal path pain in the form of Dazel pointed at Nnoitra. Instantly, dozens of Manos Grandes with purple Rinnegan fell into madness and rushed out with roars and roars. Damn it, what's going on? Nnoitra was furious, waving the 8-shaped sickle in his hand and yelling, Intruder, what did you do? Why did Dazel become like this? Tisk tisk tisk. On the gray-white tree trunk far away, Kie couldn't help smacking his lips while holding Nailu, and said, Nailu, looking at his appearance, I feel that we are bad guys. Little Nailu waved her fist and said, Kie is not a bad guy, he is the bad guy, who has been arresting Nailu and her brother. Then I will help you beat him later. Bang. Nnoitra furiously slashed down with a knife and killed the last Jillian. Then, he looked at Dazel angrily and gritted his teeth and said, Dazel, if you dare to make trouble again, I will kill you. As a Manos Grande, his personality is unstable. At this time, he was so angry that he wanted to kill all the creatures he saw. You can try. The beastly pain in the form of Dessler looked at Nnoitra indifferently, drew out the soul-slaying sword, and said coldly. Ambush. Fang armor. The captain-level reiatsu burst out. His body turned into a ferocious wild boar Manos Grande. What? Nnoitra's face changed, and he looked at the Dessler in front of him in shock. Dessler, your reiatsu. At this time, the reiatsu of Dessler was more than one level higher than before. The beastly pain in the form of Dessler looked at him indifferently and said, The 5th Espada of the Kion Palace, Nnoitra Gilga, if it were you, you would be qualified to be my Shura. 13. After saying this, the beastly pain in the form of Dessler held the knife without hesitation and slashed forward. Kill you. Nnoitra was also furious. No longer caring about the former companion in front of him, he roared and waved the 8-shaped sickle to meet him. The sound of metal clashing continued. The surrounding environment was destroyed, and was constantly destroyed by sword energy. Jillian, who approached carelessly, was torn to pieces by the reiatsu burst out by the two. The collision of pure power was particularly shocking. One was the current 5th Espada of the Kyōnaku Palace. The other was a subordinate officer of the 5th Espada. The two Manos Grandes with completely different statuses were fighting hard at this moment. Nnoitra widened his eyes and looked at the figure in front of him in shock and horror. Impossible, how did you become so strong? Chapter 82 Pray, Holy Weeping Mantis. Chapter 82 Pray, Holy Weeping Mantis. My former subordinate, who I hadn't seen for a moment, could actually fight me with a knife. How could Nnoitra believe this? Stop talking nonsense. The animal path pain in the form of the wild boar Manos Grande looked cold and didn't talk nonsense with Nnoitra. Holding the soul-slashing sword, his body flashed and chopped it down at an extremely strange angle. Abu. The sound of breaking through the air sounded. Blood flashed. Nnoitra looked at his arm with anger and shock, and there was a blood mark on it. Kendo. Shinigami's kendo. Nnoitra was furious. He didn't expect that Reiatsu, whose strength was far inferior to his own, could actually hurt his shoulder. The wound healed almost instantly, which was his unique super speed self-healing. Holding the knife with both hands, he attacked more and more violently. In the blink of an eye, the animal path fell into a disadvantage. Hiei was not surprised by this. After all, the current beast path pain had only acquired the captain-level Reiatsu by patching together various skills. But Nnoitra, as the fifth Espada, was considered strong among the captains. With a flash of golden knife light, the beast path pain in the form of Dessler had one arm cut off directly, and blood spurted out, but his cold expression did not change. While his arm was cut off, he slapped Noitra's abdomen with his right hand and said coldly. Feel the pain, understand the pain. Summoning technique. The black line spread across Noitra's abdomen, and in an instant, he felt the heart-wrenching pain, and couldn't help screaming. Ah! The billowing white smoke burst out. The three-headed hellhound carrying the breath of the void rushed out. Then, it bit Nnoitra, who was the carrier of the technique, with sharp fangs, and tore off a piece of meat. Ah! Nnoitra was in pain and furious. With his mind almost lost, he opened his mouth and condensed a strong golden Reiatsu from the tip of his tongue, blasting it at the animal path like a laser cannon. At the critical moment, in front of the animal path pain, a hand stretched out from thin air, and it blocked the golden Reiatsu. Hungry Kido, Nanaia said lightly. The golden Sero was actually swallowed by his hand. What? Nnoitra looked up in shock. I saw Nanaia holding Nailu blocking the animal path pain, smiling. I am still very satisfied with this animal path, but I can't let you destroy it so casually. As he said, his mind moved. The king of hell rose behind him and swallowed the animal path pain with a broken arm. Chewing continuously to recover the animal path's injuries. Nnoitra recognized Kia's identity, and also recognized Nailu's identity, and said with a livid face. Intruders, and that damn woman. Nailu hugged Kia's head in fear, and then poked her head out and looked at Nnoitra angrily. Nailu hates you very much. Nnoitra sneered and said. Stupid woman, you dare to appear in front of me after you become like this. As a woman, you should have been swallowed by me obediently, but now you have become neither human nor ghost. But don't worry, I won't let you escape this time, I will completely swallow you up and make you a part of my power. Quote. Hearing Noitra's discriminatory remarks, little Nailu became more and more angry, waving her little arms, and purple Reiatsu burst out from her body. Hiei looked over in surprise, but the purple Reiatsu burst out from little Nailu was only for a moment, and then the purple Reiatsu slowly disappeared. Hey, Nailu, how did you do it? Hiei rubbed little Nailu's hair in surprise. Just now she thought that Loli was going to become a queen. I don't know, little Nailu is just very angry. Nailu shook her head in confusion. Invaders, and that stupid woman, stop chatting over there. Go to hell, I'm the strongest. Noitra's eyes flashed with anger, waving the H-shaped sickle in his hand, and golden Reiatsu burst out from his body again. He roared. Pray, holy crying mantis. Boom. Golden Reiatsu soared into the sky. In the Reiatsu, Noitra's appearance changed, and pale liquid crawled on his face, gradually solidifying into a mask. A crescent-shaped horn appeared on his head, and a cross-shaped yellow facial pattern appeared on his face. A tooth-like eye mask appeared in the hollow, and 6 amputated arms grew out, and each arm held an H-shaped sickle. It can be said to be majestic and invincible. Attracted by Noitra's Reiatsu, several other Espadas arrived one after another. Haribel, Ulquiorra, Grimjow, Yami, 4 people appeared not far away and looked at the situation here. Is this the invader? He doesn't look very strong, but I feel apprehensive. Nnoitra used the return blade. Tisk, if my arm wasn't injured, I could tear that human's body apart in an instant. Ha ha ha, the hollow on that human's head, could it be that Nellialu has turned into a real person like this? 014501503 Falu 182,401,241. Don't do anything, I want to kill this guy with my own hands. Nnoitra roared. At this moment, he was filled with murderous intent against Kie. He stepped on the ground and swung the 6 H-shaped sickles in his hand. Go to hell, you women and humans. Facing this oncoming knife, Kie didn't dodge or evade, just stood there. There was even a hint of smile on his face. Abu. The blade pierced through Kia's body. Nnoitra was stunned for a moment, then his face changed drastically, because he didn't notice that the blade cut off the opponent's horn ant feeling. But Kie had already made a move. Because the distance was very close, he pressed one hand on Noitra's head, removed the hollow posture, and said lightly. Super Shinra Tensei. In an instant, an infinite repulsive force broke out. Nnoitra's body was struck by lightning. Like being pressed down by a mountain, no matter how he struggled, it was useless, and his knees fell to the ground with a plop. The power was so great that even the ground was broken by his knees. Before he could resist, his whole body was smashed into the solid stone under the Manos Grande forest with a bang. The surrounding ground also collapsed under the repulsive force. Cracks appeared in the stone, and the soil was pressed down, as if the invisible sky was pressing down, and the heavy force even distorted the space. When Kie retracted his palm, a bottomless black pit appeared on the flat ground. Although it is not big, it is very deep. Even with the Rinnegan's vision, it is impossible to see the bottom. Seeing this scene, the four Espadas not far away suddenly changed their faces, their Reiatsu boiling, and subconsciously grasped the soul-slaying sword. Nnoitra, that guy, doesn't even have the strength to resist. Grimmjow was shocked. Although he looked like the boss, he was not stupid and knew what level of strength he was at. Nnoitra was the 5th Espada of the Kyōnyaku. And he was the 6th Espada of the Kyōnyaku, which meant that Nnoitra was stronger than him. But such a Nnoitra was slapped into the ground for hundreds of meters and has not been able to climb out until now. Nnoitra is too arrogant. Haribel's expression was indifferent. As the only female among the current Espada, he and the sexist Nnoitra have a very bad relationship. Ulquiorra said. Carelessness is one thing, and on the other hand, the ability of the invader, Zhao Dezhao, is a bit weird. The other Espadas nodded slightly. Seeing them discussing, Kie impatiently slapped them and said. What are you talking about? Get out of here. Shinra Tensei. Seeing the invisible repulsive force coming, Arrancar Manos Grande, one of the four Espadas, chose to attack without hesitation. Swish, 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 swish. Four Sero of different colors made a sound of breaking through the air. With a bang, they collided with the invisible repulsive force, the sound was deafening, and the powerful impact destroyed everything around. But the Sero did not hurt Kie, because they were all swallowed by the hungry Kido's ability. When the war was about to break out, Nnoitra finally crawled out, covered in blood, but the wounds on his body had recovered, and he rushed over angrily. Human, I will never forgive you. However, his attack was the same as before. All passed through Nanaya's body, without causing any harm to Nanaya. After several consecutive slashes with the blade, Nanaya did the same thing as the animal path pain before, and pressed his right hand on his chest. Summoning Technique Ghetto Statue. Chapter 83. 10-Fist Swords, a Destructive Battle. Chapter 83. 10-Fisted Sword, a battle that destroys the heavens and the earth. Ah! Nnoitra screamed heartbreakingly. This time, he was the carrier of the spell, and the one being summoned was the Ghetto Statue. The whole body was almost torn apart, and billowing white smoke filled the sky. In the shocked eyes of all the Espada Manos Grande present, the hideous and terrifying Ghetto Statue, like a giant mountain, appeared out of thin air. The roar of the sky resounded throughout the Manos Grande forest. Nnoitra's figure had disappeared, as if he was stepped on by the Ghetto Statue. The Reiatsu on the Ghetto Statue was stronger than in the Soul Society period, and after being fused with the spiritual power of the Hollow, it became even more terrifying. The blonde beauty Haribel took a deep breath and looked at the Ghetto Statue solemnly. This monster is even more terrifying than the beast god Yang. How was it created? It not only has Shinigami, but also the power of hollows. The so-called beast god Yang is a monster formed by her 3 subordinates who broke their arms and mixed with it. Its strength is not inferior to her, and it has extremely terrifying destructive power. But even the beast god Yang, in terms of its terrifying degree, is not even 1/10 of the Ghetto Statue. It seems that the other party's existence means destruction. Ulquiorra, Grimmjow, Yami, the 3 of them looked more solemn. Nnoitra can't be relied on. Let's do it together. This is also the order of Lord Aizen. Quote. Ulquiorra's expression was cold, and without saying anything more, he drew out his soul-slaying sword and pointed it at the Ghetto Statue. Block it, Black-Winged Demon. 260 inches. Instantly, Ulquiorra's Reiatsu burst out, and black Reiatsu raindrops fell from the sky, and the surrounding environment became dark. His posture also changed as he returned to the sword. The original image of a nobleman in a white robe disappeared. He grew a pair of large black wings that could cover the sky, and wore a double-horned helmet on his head. His black nails turned into long claws, and his hair became longer. It seemed that he had become a real demon. Seeing this, Haribel did not hesitate to return the soul-slaying sword to the sword, bursting out a stronger Reiatsu than Ulquiorra. Conquer him, Queen of the Mermaid. After entering this form, Haribel's appearance did not change much, but her clothes became more exposed. Her breasts were half exposed, and her bronze skin was beautiful with the white clothes. Behind her, a stream of water appeared, and her weapon turned into a giant shark-patterned sword, releasing huge waves that covered the sky. The other people also chose to return to the sword without hesitation. Crackle, Panther King. Grimmjow's figure turned into a white cheetah, as if he could rush out at any time to take someone's life. Go crazy, angry beast. Yami roared, and his body expanded rapidly, as if he had formed a titan beast with destructive brute force. Ah, it's bad, Those guys actually chose to return to the sword, Master Kie, run away. Kadish was so scared that he trembled all over. If it weren't for Nailu still lying on Kia's shoulder, they would have wanted to turn around and run now. You know, even in Nailu's heyday, it was only the third Espada, can't beat these monsters together. It's a bit troublesome indeed. Nanaia licked his lips. Even if the ghetto statue was enhanced, he didn't think he could defeat these guys together. But, leaving like this is not in line with my character. Let's make a big fuss. Nanaia's eyes became wild, and he couldn't help laughing twice. A stronger Reiatsu burst out of his body, and he roared loudly. Susanoo complete form. In an instant, a stronger Reiatsu burst out, and the red Susanoo bones appeared out of thin air, connecting to each other, forming a martial god that covered the sky and the sun. It was Susanoo in the complete form, and its size was not weaker than the ghetto statue. He even held a shield in his left hand and a gourd in his right hand. It was Uchiha Itachi's Susanoo in Hokage, who was both offensive and defensive, and had the artifact 10-fist sword that could seal the enemy. After swallowing the spiritual power of Manos Grande in Hueco Mundo, the first thing he awakened was Mangekyo Sharingan's ability. Obtained multiple forms of Susanoo. In this case, Uchiha Itachi's Susanoo is the most suitable, after all, it can forcibly seal the opponent. Ghetto statue and Susanoo on the left and right. It's like the devil and the war god fighting side by side, the two behemoths attack at the same time. Roar. The ghetto statue roared loudly. A terrifying thunderbolt burst out from the protrusion behind it, sweeping around indiscriminately in a large area. The dazzling lightning illuminated the forest of Manos Grande. At the same time, the ghetto statue opened its mouth, and boundless spiritual power gathered in its mouth, gradually forming a dark sphere. Tailed beast cannon. Hiei looked over in surprise. He didn't expect that after being strengthened this time, the ghetto statue would change so much. No, it's Sero. It seems that it swallowed the Soul Society's King of Destruction, allowing the ghetto statue to obtain the effect of swallowing the tailed beast. While Kie was thinking, a terrifying black light suddenly shot out from the mouth of the ghetto statue. Yami burst into laughter, opened his mouth without hesitation, and roared. Don't underestimate me, I'm Yami. With his huge body, he opened his mouth, gathered a terrifying blue Reiatsu, and shot out a Sero at the same time. Open black lens bracket 014501503 Fei Lu 182,401,391. The two Sero collided in midair. In just a moment, the black Sero swallowed Yami's Sero. What? Yami's eyes widened. But before he could react, his whole body was swallowed by the black flash, and with a roar, he was directly blown away. You can't even see his figure, only a gap seems to run through the Manos Grande forest. That brainless idiot. Harabelle couldn't help but curse. It's no wonder that she was so angry that she lost a teammate right at the beginning. She herself seemed much smarter. She ignored the ghetto statue and went straight to Nanaia, the main body, with the surging waves. Trident missed halberd. A highly compressed stream of water burst out from the soul-slashing sword, like a blue sword, as if to cut off Susanoo. Ulquiorra and Grimmjow also attacked at the same time. At the same time, they aimed their right hands at Susanoo. Wang Shu's flash. Wang Shu's flash. The strongest Sero's ability burst out, the former is green, the latter is blue-green, and hits the red Susanoo at the same time. Hiei controlled Susanoo, blocked it with a red shield, and laughed. What? It doesn't hurt at all. As he said, he swung the 10-fist sword and stabbed directly at Harabelle. The latter's face changed drastically, feeling an extreme danger coming, and he didn't dare to fight it at all, and his figure quickly retreated. What kind of sword is that? Why does it make me feel so dangerous? She stared at the blade formed in the gourd. You know, after he became the third Espada, there were only a few weapons that could make her feel dangerous. Under the eyes of the crowd, the 10-fist sword hit the ground with one blow, and in an instant, the ground melted and was swallowed by the king fist sword like rain. Arrancar Manos, who was present, Grande's pupils suddenly contracted, and he looked at the ground being swallowed up in shock. That sword, can it seal us? Judging from the power displayed by the 10-fist sword, if their bodies were hit head-on, they would definitely be swallowed into the gourd. Thinking of this, their eyes became more solemn. Finally, they knew why Aizen Sōsuke sent them together. Because one or two Espadas alone could not defeat the monster in front of them, but would be sealed by the opponent and made into puppets. Don't let that sword hit your body head-on, smash the red war god protecting him first. Harabelle started, but before he finished speaking, his face changed drastically, and he looked at the big hand of ghetto statue in shock and anger. Boom. A 5-finger mark was slapped on the ground. Harabelle, who had finally dodged it, had cold sweat on his forehead. The enemy is really a bit tricky. The battle continued, and the battle between the few people was devastating, and the blades and swords kept slashing out, almost turning the surroundings into ruins. Green, cyan, blue, black, all kinds of colors Reiatsu pierced through the sky. The shock waves that erupted from time to time even blasted the depths of the Manos Grande forest into pieces. The gray-white tree trunks continued to crack. The ground underfoot was thinned by dozens of meters, and huge pits appeared one after another. Chapter 84. The Trembling Zai Palace, The Resurrected Nellul. Chapter 84. The Trembling Kyōnyaku, The Resurrected Nellul. Quote. He is still devouring spiritual energy. Grimmjow's face was ashen, and he looked at Susanoo's figure with gnashing teeth. As a complete Susanoo, not only does she have a size that covers the sky and the sun, but she can also devour the spiritual energy around her for her own use. In the original Hokage, Uchiha Itachi's Susanoo never reached the ultimate. But in Nanaya's hands, she reached the ultimate. The 10-fisted sword was invincible, and Arrancar Manos Grande's proud steel skin was not dared to touch it at all, for fear of being sealed. He only dared to rely on the power of the soul-slashing sword, Arcero, to attack Susanoo's body from a distance. But they were all blocked by Nanaya with a red shield. Just as Grimmjow was cursing, a thunderbolt suddenly fell from the sky, hitting his body, and he was struck numb all over. Roar. The Gedo statue roared violently. On the protrusion behind it, a more terrifying Reiatsu thunder burst out. Harabel, haven't you gotten rid of that big guy yet? Grimmjow couldn't help but shout. Just in the past period of time, he was electrocuted at least 10 times. If he didn't have steel skin, he felt that he would be electrocuted. Anger flashed in Harabel's beautiful eyes, waving the soul-slaying sword in his hand, and cursed. If you have the ability, come, this guy's defense is amazing. As he said, he swung the soul-slaying sword, carrying a torrent of water, and hit the Gedo statue's chest head-on. A deafening sound rang out. The Gedo statue took a step back, and knife marks appeared on its body, but compared to its huge size, this level of injury was just a drop in the bucket. With another roar, dozens of chains shot out from the Gedo statue's chest. Damn, what the hell is this again? Harabel couldn't help but curse, and swung the soul-slashing sword again. She usually has the image of a cold and arrogant queen, but today, she really couldn't help it, because she had never seen such a difficult guy. He is obviously just a human, but he feels less troublesome than the Shinigami of Soul Society. Compared with the two, Ulquiorra seems very calm, or indifferent. The black demon wings flapped, making him extremely fast, flashing in the air, constantly shooting out flashes of Wangshu. Even with Susanoo's defense, many cracks appeared on the armor. But Kie didn't care about it, his eyes were fanatical. Rinnegan stared at Grimmjow, and swung the 10-fist sword to stab him. Boom. Another large area of ground was swallowed by the 10-fist sword. Grimmjow, who dodged like a cheetah, looked even uglier, and couldn't help but roar. Damn human, why are you only staring at me? There were 3 Arrancar Manos Grande present, but Kie seemed to only stare at him. He beat him so hard that he ran away. He felt so aggrieved. Kie curled his lips and said, nonsense, of course you are the weakest among the enemies present, and you will pick the weak ones first. Hearing this, Grimmjow was almost angry to death and roared. You idiot human, I just don't want to improve my ranking. In terms of strength, you are definitely stronger than Ulquiorra. Are you kidding me? Kie looked at Grimmjow with contempt and stabbed him with the 10-fist sword again. Ulquiorra, although this is the 5th Espada. But his true strength is definitely not weaker than the first Espada. The second stage of the blade is so terrifying. He didn't want to force this guy to the second stage of the blade, otherwise he would definitely not be his opponent. Grimmjow had the urge to vomit blood, but there was nothing he could do. He could only dodge the attack of the King Fist sword in a panic. The battle continued and the scale became larger and larger. Just the tailed beast cannon used by the Gedo statue, Arcero, there were already more than a dozen rounds. The ground had been blasted to pieces. Even the top floor of the Kyōnakyo Palace felt the Reiatsu coming from this side. The first Espada Stark, leaning lazily against the wall of the Kyōnakyo Palace, said, fortunately I didn't go over there, otherwise it would definitely be very troublesome. His subordinate, the light green-haired girl, kicked him dissatisfied and said, what's the trouble with a mere human? You can't feel it. Stark yawned and said lazily. The battle over there is definitely terrifying, that scale, even the ground here is shaking slightly. The green-haired girl suddenly widened her eyes. Really? She touched the ground and gasped. Really, the Kyonomiya Palace is shaking. Hey, no way. Ichimaru Jin couldn't help swallowing his saliva and said. Lord Aizen, why do I feel that Nanaya has become stronger again? He could also feel the Reiatsu coming from below. Entangled with each other, colliding with each other, it was definitely a battle that was evenly matched. You know, after Aizen Sōsuke pointed out Ulquiorra and the others, he thought that the battle would not have much suspense. After all, these are 5 captain-level combat forces, or they are considered strong among the captains. They can be compared with Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukitake. But now it seems that the 5 Arrancar Manos Grande are clearly tied with Nanaya. Aizen Sōsuke didn't care about this and said lightly, it doesn't matter. No matter how he gets stronger, he is just a human being after all. As he said that, he put Hōgyoku in his palm and looked at it, with a gleam of light in his eyes. Soon, Hōgyoku. In just a few days, he can create a complete Hōgyoku and integrate it into his body. 0. Please give me flowers. By that time, he will be able to break the boundary between Shinigami and Hollow. Become a true god. Photo. Harabel's plump chest kept rising and falling, and a layer of sweat oozed out of his forehead. He gritted his teeth and looked at the ghetto statue in front of him. Damn, why is this guy so difficult to deal with? What on earth is it? She has used her strongest combat power and chopped for most of the day, but she only cut off one arm of the ghetto statue. And the ghetto statue seemed to be unaffected at all. Looking at the battle next to her, Harabel became even more angry. Facing the double siege of Ulquiorra and Grimmjow, the Red War God holding a shield and a sword has not collapsed yet. The opponent devoured spiritual power while fighting. It seemed to have unlimited endurance. The battle was in full swing. Yami, who was blasted out at the beginning of the battle, finally stepped on heavy steps and rumbled back. Damn big guy, you blasted me so far away. Yami looked at ghetto statue furiously. As he was furious, Yami's body became larger, with a height of dozens of meters, waving a big sword to cut at ghetto statue. Ghetto statue was hit by a knife. The right leg like a dead tree was almost broken, but after a roar, he swung his arm again and slapped it. The battle reached its climax in an instant. The seriously injured Nnoitra couldn't bear it anymore, and rushed out, boiling with golden reiatsu, waving 6 H-shaped sickles. He chopped down with an extremely angry knife. The target was the perfect red Susanoo. Damn human, die. With a roar, 6 blades hit Susanoo at the same time. The red Susanoo was slashed with countless cracks. It seemed that if another Sero came, the perfect Susanoo would collapse. Seeing such a thrilling scene, Xiaonailu's eyes flashed with anger, and purple reiatsu boiled on her body. Nnoitra, you are not allowed to hurt Nanoitra. The purple reiatsu soared into the sky. Above Susanoo's head, a mature lady appeared out of thin air. Her lake green hair fell to her waist, and there was an antelope skull-shaped mask on her forehead. There was a scar on the right side of her forehead extending to her nose. She had gray-brown eyes and a rose-colored horizontal facial tattoo. There was a class number 3 on her back. She had a blank expression, but gave people a sense of danger, and looked at Nnoitra with cold eyes. I will never forgive you. Seeing the sudden appearance of the queen, Nnoitra felt her scalp tingling. No way. Nellulu, can you still recover? Guang. Chapter 85. Distinguished Heavenly Gods and the Manipulated Blonde Maid. Chapter 85 Distinguished Heavenly Gods and the Manipulated Blonde Maid. Nellulu looked at them expressionlessly. But the reiatsu bursting out of her body became stronger and stronger, and she slowly drew out her soul-slaying sword. Seeing this scene, Nnoitra, Harabel, Grimmjow, and Yami felt their scalps tingling. It was already difficult to deal with one Kie, and now there was another Nellulu. This was once the third Espada, and it was the Manos Grande of Arrancar. Its strength was even stronger than Harabel. The four could only grit their teeth and look at Susanoo and ghetto statue. The former was full of cracks and on the verge of breaking. The latter had a broken arm and a leg close to collapse. They barely breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that although it was difficult, there was still a possibility of victory. But just as they were about to continue, Tianyi lazily said in the red crystal on the top of Susanoo. Hey, you guys, don't you think I'm going to fall down? As he spoke, the red Susanoo disappeared, and green reiatsu boiled on Nanoya's body, forming a green, 540, Susanoo again. This time it was Uchiha Shisui's Susanoo, a divine weapon with full offensive attributes. The four people felt cold when they saw it. They didn't know that for Nanoya, as long as the spiritual power was enough, Susanoo's injuries could be healed at any time. In Hueco Mundo, there was spiritual power everywhere. The reason why Susanoo's injuries were not repaired was to make them careless and take the opportunity to kill 2 of them to create pain. But since Nell recovered, it was unlikely that these guys would be careless. At this moment, the repaired animal path pain came out of the mouth of the King of Hell in the distance, and used the return blade without hesitation. Ambush. Fang armor. The reiatsu approaching the captain rose, and the ferocious wild boar Manos Grande appeared out of thin air. He pointed the huge blade at them. Harabel, Nnoitra, Grimmjow, Yami, the four people's faces changed, and they couldn't help but tighten their soul-slaying swords. The opponent actually added another combat force, and it seemed that they could at least hold back one Manos Grande. If Nellul is included, Harabel decisively gave up the idea of continuing to fight. Let's go. She knew that she couldn't take down Nanoya. If she continued to delay, she might be taken down by the opponent. Although Grimmjow and the other 2 were still unwilling, they also knew that continuing would be fruitless, so they could only turn around and walk towards the Palace of Night. Running away is really troublesome. Kie frowned, thought about it, gritted his teeth and made up his mind, saying,
Hey, the shameless blonde woman in front, stop right there, it's not that easy to run away after hitting someone. A cold light flashed in Harabel's eyes, he stopped suddenly and looked at Kie coldly. Humans, too arrogant. While she was talking, Kai's eyes also flashed with a hint of coldness. He looked into her eyes and shouted. Sharingan distinguished heavenly gods. The strongest illusion in Mangekyo Sharingan exploded. At the moment of using this move, 90% of Kai's spiritual power poured into his eyes, and a green spiritual flame ignited on his body.
The invisible wave acted on Harabel. In an instant,
Haribel's eyes became extremely confused, and his hands dropped. Nnoitra was already discriminating against women, and at this moment it reached its peak. He stopped and looked at Haribel angrily and said, Haribel, why are you still stopping here? As a female Manos Grande, are you still interested in that little devil? As he said this, Haribel's eyes gradually regained their spirits, and he looked at him, raised his soul-slashing sword indifferently, and said, Break the waterfall. The soul-slashing sword swung down. A violent stream of water burst out from the blade, like a waterfall, and it seemed like a water blade that cut off the waterfall. It instantly hit Nnoitra, who was close at hand. Nnoitra spat out a large mouthful of blood, was knocked back dozens of meters away, and stared at Haribel in disbelief with wide eyes. Wait, stinky woman, what are you doing? Although he has always discriminated against women, he dared not be rude to Haribel. Because Haribel is not Nellul, the former is more indifferent and ruthless, even if it is a companion, he will kill him with his own hands. Unexpectedly, it was Haribel who attacked him first. Haribel looked at him coldly, and said with murderous intent, Nnoitra, you discriminatory trash, you dare to attack my master, I will definitely kill you today. Nnoitra, who dodged Haribel's knives, felt a chill on his back and looked at Kie with horror. Yes, you did it. In just a few seconds, Haribel's attitude changed so much that he could only think that Kie had done something. Grimjow and Yami also felt creepy. Haribel, who was a companion a second ago, drew his sword against them the next second and called the human master. This method can be described as terrible, more evil than their Arrancar Manos Grande statement. It is completely a devilish method. After performing distinguished heavenly gods, Kie, who was still very weak, pretended to be calm and showed them a bright smile. Don't leave, we are friends. But in their eyes, this bright smile was simply a devil smiling at them. The three people who were originally slow were greatly stimulated to burst out with powerful spiritual power and ran wildly towards the distance in the state of returning to the sword. Sweat even appeared on their foreheads, and they wanted to use all their strength. They didn't want to be controlled like Haribel. That would be more terrible than death. Ulquiorra's speed was faster than them, and the wings of the black winged demon flapped like a black meteor across the night sky. In the blink of an eye, the figure of Sixu disappeared. Haribel's eyes were cold, and he was about to chase him, but was stopped by Kie. Stop first, don't chase. The use of distinguished heavenly gods consumed 90% of his spiritual power. If the other party really dared to come back, he might not be able to beat them. Yes, master. Haribel agreed obediently. Nell, who looked like a mature lady, tilted her head, took back the constantly improving Reiatsu, and looked at Nanoya with some doubts. Nana, is this the end? She was a little confused. Haribel, who was an enemy just now, became Nanaya's teammate in the blink of an eye. It's over. Nanoya stretched comfortably. The strongest illusion, distinguished heavenly gods, is one of the abilities he gained by consuming the power of many hollows. At the cost of consuming a lot of spiritual power, forcibly invade the opponent's brain, modify the opponent's will, and turn it into his own puppet. There is no cooling time in the Hokage world. As long as the spiritual power is enough, it can be used unlimitedly. The effect is very strong, but it is not suitable for use in battle, because it takes 90% of the spiritual power, and it is not known whether the opponent can be controlled. If there is no other way to stop them, Tianyi really doesn't want to use this trick. After hearing what Nanoya said, Nailu immediately showed a surprised expression, opened her arms, and happily rushed towards Nanoya. Nana, you are so awesome, I want to eat Compito. She threw herself into the green crystal, hugged Nanoya happily like a child. Nana's head was buried in her chest. It's really something. Nanaya's heart Chunin couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that the sloppy Nailu would be so plump after becoming a queen. She is worthy of being the goddess in the hearts of countless Shinigami fans. After sighing, Nanoya picked up Nailu and put her aside, handed her a bag of Compito and said, Nailu, be good, I have to study how to take 0.6 away from here first. Although Hueco Mundo is good, it's time to leave. Today, Ulquiorra and the others were driven away, and the next one might be Aizen Sōsuke. He doesn't have the confidence to defeat the opponent yet. Nell happily took the candy and ate it while watching Nanoya busy. Rinnegan's vision is interoperable, which means that the effect of the transcription seal can be applied to all peens. Nanoya stroked his chin and looked at the animal path pain. He had not forgotten that there was also a human path pain in the Seraiti. Unlike the 6 paths pain in the Hokage world, the 6 paths pain he controlled could be controlled even across a world. Thinking, Nanoya's Rinnegan stirred up waves and said, Translation seal hyphenation point Kamui. A black crow flew out of the purple Rinnegan and got into the Rinnegan servant of the animal path pain. Seraiti. Human path pain walked out of the basement. The space in front of him twisted in vain, and several figures walked out of the Uzumaki-like space.